the Sahel region of Africa. It's a lawless stretch of land known to governments worldwide as the Forbidden Death Zone. Scavengers circle above the remains of those who failed to survive its harsh terrain. Hidden deep within the rocky cliffs sits a high-tech facility, guarded day and night by armed sentries. This is the secret heart of a dangerous operation. Two guards stand watch at the entrance, their eyes scanning for any sign of trouble while their partner works silently in the shadows. They are rugged soldiers, marked by red headbands and a constant state of alertness. From the darkness, the legendary Wolf King, Jiang Hao, drops behind a guard and pins him with a blade to his throat. His red eyes glow with lethal focus as he secures the perimeter. He and his teammate move with terrifying efficiency, dropping the rest of the security detail before they can even make a sound. They work in perfect sync, a duo that the underworld has learned to fear. Red Wolf pauses to check the bodies, but something feels off. He mentions it's suspicious that there were only 2 guards protecting the entire path to the inner sanctum. Jiang Hao doesn't slow down, his mind fixed on the mission. He checks the target indicator, which confirms that their objective is right behind the next set of doors. They stand before the heavy steel entrance, weapons drawn and ready for whatever defense lies inside. The air is thick with the silence of a pending breach. The doors hiss open, revealing a cold, metallic room that looks strangely empty. There are no guards waiting to greet them this time. In the center of the floor sits a single, heavy crate. Jiang Hao steps up to it, ready to claim the prize they've fought so hard to reach. He pries the lid open, while Red Wolf keeps his guard up. But the box is a fake, and Jiang Hao's face pales as he realizes they've walked straight into a trap. A digital timer tucked inside the container starts chirping a rapid warning. They have exactly 20 seconds before the whole room goes up. Jiang Hao shouts for his partner to run, turning to sprint for the exit as the red numbers count down. The sound of the ticking bomb echoes through the hall. But Red Wolf stops at the frame. He grabs the door, looking back at his boss one last time with a look of finality. He screams for Jiang Hao to keep moving, insisting that if they both stay, neither will make it out alive. He's already made his decision. Jiang Hao reaches back, desperate to pull his friend with him, but the timer is fatting fast. He can't reach him in time. Red Wolf gives him a final shove and slams the heavy blast door shut, sealing himself inside with the bomb. He shouts one last command to go. The countdown hits 0. The silence is broken by a deafening roar. The facility is consumed by a massive fireball that tears through the rock and sends a shockwave across the desert. Everything inside is obliterated. Word travels fast in the underworld. The dark web is immediately set ablaze with breaking news of the Wolf King's demise. People can't believe it. The man revered as the King of Assassins is reported to have been blown to pieces on a failed mission in Africa. The forums are filled with users questioning what kind of mission could have possibly taken out such an S-class legend. The underworld has lost its peak combatant. Others are already mourning, knowing the Wolf organization will likely fall into total chaos without its leader to hold things together. The era of the Wolf King seems to be over. Amidst the smoldering ruins of the facility, a hand reaches out from the darkness of a collapsed tunnel. Against all odds, a figure begins to crawl out. Jiang Hao stands among the dust and debris, alive but deeply scarred. He knows the only reason he's breathing is because his teammate gave his life to save him. The trauma of the battle and his recovery trigger a massive breakthrough. While his body heals, his internal energy reaches the legendary martial arts level, the transformation stage. He decides to hide his edge and live as an ordinary man, concealing his name and identity from the world. He's no longer the arrogant king he once was. Now he walks the streets of a bustling city, blending into the crowd like a 1,000-year-old tortoise lying dormant in the mortal world. To anyone else, he's just another stranger in a jacket. But there's still a thorn in his heart, a promise he made to his father that he hasn't yet fulfilled. He has one final task to complete before he can truly vanish. He stands on a street corner, looking up at the sky as the leaves drift around him. The path ahead is clear now. He hails a taxi and asks the driver to take him to number 33, Huishan Tianyu Garden. It's a prestigious address for the city's elite. As the car speeds off, The driver glances at him through the mirror, nodding his out-of-town accent. He asks if Jiang Hao is in Wuling City to visit some relatives. Jiang Hao just nods and tells him he could say that. The old man warns him that claiming ties with the powerful Feng family isn't as easy as it looks. They pull up to the massive estate where luxury cars are parked along the driveway. It looks like the Feng family is having a grand celebration today. The driver tells him he'll wait right there, fully expecting that Jiang Hao will be kicked out in no time. He suggests paying for the round trip all at once. Jiang Hao steps out of the car, carrying nothing but a worn backpack. He ignores the driver's skepticism and focuses on the manor's entrance. He takes in the festive atmosphere of the estate. It seems his arrival has coincided with a very joyous occasion for the Feng family. Behind him, the driver whispers to himself, betting that someone in such shabby clothes won't even make it past the front gates. He's already planning to run naked around Hongshan if the kid succeeds. Standing before the grand sign of the Feng Manor, Jiang Hao reminds himself of his goal. He needs to fulfill his father's dying wish first, then he'll investigate the betrayal in Africa. Two burly guards in suits immediately step forward to intercept him. One of them raises a hand, blocking his path with a stern expression. Jiang Hao is caught off guard, having no idea an invitation was even required. The guards look like they have zero patience for a beggar trying to crash their banquet. One of the guards looks Jiang Hao up and down with a suspicious eye. He asks what business he could possibly have if he's not here for the grand banquet. Jiang Hao pulls out a weathered old photograph and holds it out for them to see. He explains calmly that the man pictured in the uniform is his father. The guards lean in close, squinting at the image and then back at the young man standing before them. They admit there's a striking resemblance between him and the man in the photo. Jiang Hao then presents a small, ornate wooden box to the men. He tells them that once Uncle Feng sees the medal inside, his true identity will be undeniable. The guards exchange a quick, nervous glance before one of them takes the box, promising to inform the master immediately. Jiang Hao waits patiently, his expression as unreadable as ever. Inside the estate, the gardens are filled with elegantly dressed guests enjoying a lavish feast. A celebratory voice echoes over the crowd, remarking on how quickly the years have passed. The guest of honor, Feng Yiyan, sits at her table in a stunning pink off-the-shoulder dress. She is the picture of grace and beauty, the center of attention at her own engagement party. Feng Wanming, the head of the house, stands before the gathered crowd with a glass of wine raised. He calls out for the attention of all his honored guests. He announces with a proud smile that today is the grand engagement day for his daughter and the Wan family's eldest young master. He looks forward to a long and prosperous future for both families. He invites everyone to raise their glasses and congratulate the young couple. It's a moment of triumph for the Feng family, solidifying their power in the city. The guests cheer and toast to the union, nodding that with these two families joining, they'll practically call the shots in Wuling City from now on. The atmosphere is one of pure celebration. In the middle of the toast, a guard rushes up to Feng Wanming's side and whispers urgently. He tells his master that there's a young man at the gate who brought a very specific item. The guard presents the wooden box, and Feng Wanming's smile instantly vanishes. He opens it to find a red-starred medal, and his hands begin to tremble. He stares at the token in disbelief, wondering aloud if the Jiang family has actually returned after all these years. His shock is visible to everyone at the head table. His wife and younger daughter look on in confusion, asking why his expression has changed so drastically. Feng Wanming is too stunned to give them a straight answer. The auntie leans in and reveals a long-held family secret. She explains that years ago, their father had arranged a childhood betrothal between Yiyan and the son of the Jiang family. Feng Zixuan is horrified by the news. She turns to her grandfather, Elder Feng, and pleads with him to stand up for her sister and not let her marry some total stranger. Elder Feng remains calm, telling the family not to panic just yet. He suggests that Wanming go and take a look for himself to see who has arrived at their gate. Feng Wanming tells his family to stay and entertain the Wan family while he goes to check. He turns and marches toward the entrance, his mind racing with old memories. He pushes through the front doors and scans the area until he spots the young man. His voice is full of emotion as he calls out, "Hey, Ozzy, it really is you." A look of pure joy washes over Feng Wanaming's face. He tells Jiang Hao that he has searched so hard for him all these years, never losing hope. Jiang Hao offers a respectful greeting, apologizing for being so late and for making Uncle Feng worry for so long. He looks composed despite the heavy atmosphere. Feng Wanaming rushes forward and pulls the boy into a tight, emotional hug. He can't believe how much the little boy he once knew has grown into a man. He keeps a hand on Jiang Hao's shoulder, beaming as he looks him over. He then asks how his father is doing and why he didn't come along to the city today. Jiang Hao's expression turns somber as he delivers the news. He quietly reveals that his father passed away 10 years ago after an old injury relapsed. The news hits Feng Wanaming like a physical blow. His eyes go wide, and he stares at Jiang Hao in stunned silence as the loss of his old friend sinks in. He hangs his head, his voice heavy with a decade of guilt. He blames himself, saying that if his friend hadn't tried to save him back then, he never would have been hurt. Jiang Hao tries to comfort the man, telling him that it's all in the past now. He doesn't want Uncle Feng to suffer for things that happened so long ago. He explains that he came this time specifically to fulfill his father's final dying wish. He was told that once he found Uncle Feng, everything would become clear. Feng Wanaming nods, his expression turning serious as he considers the gravity of the request. He says he understands, but he looks weighed down by the current situation. He leads Jiang Hao into the grand foyer of the manor, where the rest of the family is waiting. He asks his wife if the Wan family has already been taken care of. The auntie leads the group down the stairs, followed closely by Feng Yian and the others. She confirms that they've already made arrangements to see the guests off. Feng Wanaming introduces Jiang Hao to his wife and daughter. He reminds Yian that they even played house together when they were children. Jiang Hao offers a polite greeting to the beautiful woman in pink. He admits that she's changed so much over the years that he almost didn't recognize her. Feng Yian remains cold, her eyes showing no sign of recognition or warmth. She bluntly states that she doesn't really remember much about their childhood memories either. Feng Zixuan steps forward with a hostile glare. She demands to know why Jiang Hao has suddenly appeared today after being gone for over 10 years. Her brother Feng Heiyaming joins in with a sneer. He says there's no need to ask, claiming it's obvious that Jiang Hao is just trying to leech off the Feng family's wealth. Heiyaming points a finger at Jiang Hao, telling him to keep dreaming. He reminds the outsider that his sister is already engaged to the young master of the Wan family. Feng Wanaming's patience snaps, and he barks at Heiyaming to shut his mouth. The sudden outburst from the patriarch silences the room instantly. Jiang Hao ignores the siblings and turns to Uncle Feng, asking for a real explanation. He repeats that he only came here to honor his father's final request. Feng Wanaming takes a deep breath, his eyes fixed on the young man. He softly calls out the name Heyazi, a look of deep regret and resolve in his eyes. He finally reveals the truth to everyone present. Long ago, he and Jiang Hao's father arranged a childhood betrothal between him and Yian, and that was the father's final dying wish. Feng Yian gasps, pressing her hand against her mouth as her amber eyes widen in pure shock at the announcement. Below her, Jiang Hao stares back with a furrowed brow, the revelation of a childhood betrothal catching him just as off guard as the rest of the family. Feng Wanaming looks Jiang Hao in the eye, confirming that the agreement was made with his father years ago. It's a promise he intends to keep, no matter how much time has passed. Jiang Hao stands in the middle of the grand lobby, surrounded by the rest of the Feng family. He's just learned that his father's dying wish was an infant betrothal, a revelation that leaves him processing the weight of this sudden obligation. Looking down from above, the young man considers the danger of his own world. He knows the martial world is a treacherous place, and bringing anyone into his life right now could put them in the crosshairs. He looks up at Feng Wanaming with a serious expression. Despite it being his father's last request, he tells Uncle Feng that he wants to call off the engagement to protect them. Feng Heiyaming doesn't buy the noble act for a second, pointing an accusing finger and shouting. He's convinced Jiang Hao only showed up today because he heard about the sister's high-profile engagement to the Wan family. Feng Zixuan chimes in from the side, her expression full of disdain. She calls him a leech, assuming he's just terrified of losing his chance to crawl into their family's wealth. Feng Wanaming's eyes widen in shock at his own children's blatant disrespect. He stares at them, barely able to process the vitriol they're spewing at a guest. Heiyaming continues his tirade, calling Jiang Hao nothing but a beggar who has no right to marry into their prestigious family. Wanaming finally snaps, demanding an apology before he loses his temper and teaches his son some manners. The arrogant son doesn't back down, daring his father to hit him. He tells him to just beat him to death if he's really going to force his sister to marry a penniless nobody. Feng Yian stands there with tears streaming down her face, looking completely betrayed. She asks her father if he's actually serious about ruining her current engagement just to force her onto this stranger. Feng Wanaming points a stern finger at her, doubling down on his decision. He reminds her that this marriage was settled 20 years ago, and that fact is not going to change. Crying harder, Yian looks at him with pure resentment. She can't believe he'd sacrifice his own daughter's happiness just to satisfy a selfish promise he made decades ago. She turns and sprints away from the room, unable to handle the situation any longer. Heiyaming and Zixuan quickly chase after her, leaving the two men alone in the tense silence of the lobby. Feng Wanaming places a steadying hand on the young man's shoulder. He tells Jiang Hao to stay the night, take a hot shower, and get some rest while he tries to sort out the mess with his family. Outside the manor, the moon hangs high over the sprawling estate. The quiet night contrasts sharply with the explosive drama that just unfolded inside the walls. In a private room, Jiang Hao sits cross-legged on a bed, stripped to the waist. He begins his nightly internal breathing technique, drawing in energy to strengthen his meridians and sharpen his senses. As golden energy swirls around his body, he focuses on his internal cultivation. He can feel himself on the absolute edge of breaking through to the legendary transformation stage. In another part of the house, an elder asks Feng Wanaming if he's truly set on following through with this marriage. The question hangs heavy in the dimly lit room. Looking out over the gardens, Wanaming reveals the dark truth behind his loyalty. He admits that Hao's father actually died because of him, a burden he's carried for a long time. He explains that if his old friend hadn't suffered those injuries saving his life, his family would never have been ruined. Without that sacrifice, the Feng family wouldn't even exist today. Wanaming turns back to Elder Feng with desperation in his voice. He asks what kind of man he would be if he chose to break a promise to the person who gave everything for him. Elder Feng sighs, leaning on his cane. He acknowledges the honor in keeping the promise, but points out that it's Yian who is being forced to pay the price for it. Wanaming insists that since she's his daughter, she will eventually understand the impossible position he's in. He believes that time will heal the rift he's creating. Elder Feng gives him a grim look, reminding him of the social consequences. Everyone in the city knows about the alliance with the Wan family, and breaking it now will definitely bring their wrath down on them. Despite the warning, the patriarch is determined to face whatever comes. He says he'll find a way to handle the fallout, refusing to back down from his debt. Elder Feng finally gives in, saying he can agree to the marriage, but only if 3 strict conditions are met. Wanaming immediately asks what they are, willing to listen. He lays them out: a 3-month probation, no financial help from the family, and Jiang Hao must enter as a live-in son-in-law. Wanaming looks worried, wondering if the young man will ever accept such a humiliating deal. The old man paces the room, defending the harsh terms. He argues that they can't just let their eldest daughter marry a man with no background or wealth without testing him first. Wanaming nods solemnly, deciding he has to be the one to talk to Hao about it. He leaves the study, heading toward the guest room. Inside the room, Jiang Hao is deep in his meditation, his body glowing with a golden aura. He slowly brings his hands together to stabilize the massive surge of energy within him. He opens one eye, sensing someone approaching. He thinks about how much Uncle Feng has already done for him and decides he can't let the man suffer any more because of him. Jiang Hao is sitting on the edge of the bed when a knock comes at the door. Uncle Feng's voice filters through, asking if he's still awake. He stands up and grabs a white shirt, pulling it on to cover the dragon tattoo on his chest. He tells his host to come inside, ready for whatever news he's bringing. As Wanaming enters the room, Jiang Hao speaks up first. He tells him that he doesn't want to cause any more trouble and will agree to whatever decision has been made. The patriarch looks surprised, asking if he's really willing to accept the role of a live-in son-in-law. Without hesitation, the young man tells him that he accepts the terms. Overwhelmed by the response, the older man grips his shoulder. He tells him he feels like he's truly wronged him by asking for such a sacrifice. Jiang Hao gives him a small smile, telling him not to be so hard on himself. Uncle Feng tells him to get some rest and that he'll go make the final arrangements. He watches the door close as Uncle Feng leaves the room. He admits to himself that he only agreed to save the man the embarrassment, planning to be long gone from the city within 3 months anyway. The scene shifts to the Wan family mansion, glowing under the moonlight. The estate looks peaceful, but the news of the broken engagement is about to change that. Inside, Wan Guofeng slams his hand on a table, shouting in disbelief. He can't wrap his head around the fact that the Feng family would actually dare to break off the engagement. He stands over his desk, fuming as he reminds Wanaming that the ceremony is only 3 days away. He thinks the whole thing has to be some kind of sick joke. Wanaming stands his ground in the office, facing the blonde man's rage. He asks Guofeng to understand his position, explaining that a promise is a promise, and he won't be known as a man who breaks his word. Wan Guofeng continues his outburst, his face contorted with rage. He demands to know if Feng Wanaming really thinks he can just play the Wan family for fools and make them the laughingstock of the city. Looking down with a somber expression, Feng Wanaming offers a massive concession as an apology. He tells Guofeng that the Feng group is willing to pull out of the prestigious Angxin district project to make amends. Guofeng isn't appeased, lunging forward with his hand outstretched. He asks if they take the Wan family for children who can be slapped and then bought off with a piece of candy. His voice reaches a fever pitch as he makes a clear threat. He declares that they won't let this slide and that the Feng family is going to pay dearly for this humiliation. With a final, dismissive gesture, the blond man orders his guards to show the patriarch out. Wanaming turns to leave, his face unreadable as the negotiation officially fails. The scene shifts to the neon-drenched streets of Wuling City at night. Outside a large building, a bright sign for an internet cafe glows against the dark sky. Inside the crowded cafe, the atmosphere is loud and chaotic. A customer yells for a different computer while Jiang Hao sits quietly at a terminal in the foreground, his eyes fixed on the monitor. He types rapidly, his fingers moving with practiced precision across the keys. The screen displays a red butterfly emblem, a gateway to a hidden network for trade, hearing, and secret messages. Jiang Hao browses through the S-rank assassin profiles, stopping at one for Zhu Yunbai. The screen describes him as a Chinese grandmaster with an $800 million bounty on his head. He scrolls down to a news report about a tragic crime involving a university student and the powerful Coles family. The details mention a hit being put out on the victim's mother to silence her. A gruesome image on the screen shows the aftermath of an assassination. Jiang Hao reads that Zhu Yunbai killed the culprit and 10 bodyguards, proving he truly lives up to his reputation as his master's friend. Suddenly, his expression shifts to one of pure shock as he clicks on a new alert. His hand pauses on the mouse, his red eyes widening at the information flashing across the monitor. A massive wolf emblem fills the screen, accompanied by a dire announcement. It states that the Wolf King has fallen and that the organization's number 4, Sky Wolf, has seized control. Memory fragments of his past life flash through his mind. He remembers sprinting through a high-tech facility, teeth bared in a snarl as he fought alongside his partner. He sees the moment Red Wolf made his final choice, pushing him away from a ticking death trap. The sacrifice was instantaneous and left no room for argument. A violent explosion rips through the facility, consuming everything in a wall of fire. The memory of that blinding heat and the loss of his friend still burns in his mind. Back in the present, Jiang Hao's face is a mask of cold fury. He realizes that after his supposed death, the number 2 member, Lone Wolf, should have taken over, not the lower-ranked Sky Wolf. He stands up from the desk, his mind racing with the implications of the coup. He's certain now that he was set up during that last mission and vows to find out exactly who the traitor is. Staring intensely at the screen, he clenches his teeth. He makes a silent promise to the memory of Red Wolf that he will uncover the truth and get his revenge. High above the city, the full moon shines brightly in a star-filled sky. The city lights below stretch out into the distance, concealing 1,000 secrets. Jiang Hao steps out of the internet cafe, his long coat billowing slightly in the night air. He decides to stay in the city for a few days to gather leads and learn the lay of the land. A white van suddenly swerves toward the curb, tires screeching as it stops right in front of him. He stands his ground, watching the vehicle with a neutral expression. 3 men in tank tops jump out of the side door, their intentions clear. One of them gestures for Jiang Hao to get inside, claiming he's doing them a favor by coming along. 2 of the thugs pull out large knives, the blades glinting under the streetlights. Jiang Hao doesn't even flinch, his eyes scanning them as he evaluates the threat. The silver-haired leader leans in close, his face twisted into a menacing grin. He warns Jiang Hao that if he tries to fight back, he'll gut him right there on the sidewalk. Jiang Hao looks the man in the eye, completely unimpressed. He realizes these are just average street thugs and decides to play along for now so he doesn't blow his cover. He puts his hands up in a fake surrender, pretending to be a helpless victim. The thugs shove him toward the open door of the van, shouting at him to shut up and get in. As he's forced into the vehicle, he finds he's not the only prisoner. A young woman is already inside, her hands bound, and a thick gag tied across her mouth. Once the door slams shut, Jiang Hao starts his act, offering them the $300 he has on him. The thugs just laugh, telling him they didn't kidnap him for such a measly amount of cash. He lets a subtle, knowing smile touch his lips as he looks up at them. He asks the obvious question, if they aren't after his money, then why did they grab him? One of the kidnappers turns around from the front seat, telling him to stop asking questions. He promises that once the job is finished, Jiang Hao will even walk away with a fat paycheck. The van speeds away down the empty highway, its headlights cutting through the darkness. High above, the moon watches over the silent city as the vehicle disappears into the night. Night falls over the massive Feng estate. A sleek luxury car sits in the driveway, its lights reflecting off the polished pavement while the manor's windows glow with the activity of a family in crisis. 111111111111. Inside the main hall, the air is thick with desperation. The family's leadership has gathered to discuss the kidnapping of their youngest, while Feng Wanaming paces the floor with his jaw clenched in frustration. Elder Jin sits at the head of the room, his face etched with a mixture of grief and simmering fury. He leans forward in his ornate chair, demanding to know if there's been any progress at all on finding Yayao. The man in the white suit stands across from him, looking completely drained by the ordeal. He admits that despite using every connection in the underworld and the police, nobody has a single lead on who took the girl. The patriarch isn't interested in hearing any more excuses and orders them to prepare for the worst. They need to find those kidnappers immediately, and they need to have the ransom money ready to go right now. His sons exchange uneasy looks as the gravity of the demand sets in. One of them points out that with several major projects nearing completion, the company accounts don't actually have 500 million in liquid cash available. A heavier-set man steps forward, gesturing dismissively as if he's talking about a common business deal gone wrong. He suggestively suggests they just negotiate with the kidnappers to bring the price down to a more manageable 100 million. The man in the white suit snaps, his voice echoing through the room as he calls his brother's suggestion completely heartless. He asks if he would be so cheap if it were his own son who had been snatched off the street. The other man doesn't even flinch, casually stating that he'd probably do the exact same thing regardless of which child was taken. It's a cold calculation that sends a chill through the rest of the gathered family. A sudden, sharp crack rings out as a hand slams down onto the arm of a wooden chair. The wood groans under the pressure, signaling that the old man's patience has finally reached its breaking point. Elder Jin stands up, his voice booming as he tells them both to shut up. He looks down on them with pure disgust, done with their bickering while his granddaughter's life hangs in the balance. He declares that money is just a worldly possession, but a life is something they can never replace. His order is final. They will find a way to scrape together every cent of that 500 million immediately. Far away from the manor's luxury, a white van pulls into a dark, dilapidated warehouse district. The rusty gates groan open, swallowing the vehicle into the shadows of an industrial wasteland. The doors slide open, and the kidnappers drag their prizes out into the dim light of the facility. Among the thugs stands Jiang Hao, looking entirely too relaxed for a man who was just abducted at gunpoint. Beside him, Yeyao is a mess of tears and terror, her hands bound and her mouth sealed shut with heavy tape. One of the larger goons keeps a firm grip on her shoulder, making sure she doesn't try to make a run for it. Without any warning, a hand reaches out and rips the tape from her mouth in one quick motion. The sound of the adhesive tearing away is sharp, leaving her skin red as she gasps for air. The moment her mouth is free, she screams for help at the top of her lungs, her voice echoing off the high metal rafters of the warehouse. The bald leader just laughs at her, finding her desperation more entertaining than threatening. One of the thugs leans in close, a sadistic grin on his face as he delivers a graphic threat. He tells her to keep her mouth shut unless she wants to experience something much worse before they finally kill her. Yeyao glares back, her fear momentarily replaced by a defiant spark as she threatens to bite her own tongue off if they touch her. The thugs just trade amused looks, clearly used to dealing with terrified victims. The boss isn't interested in the drama and tells them to quit wasting time and get to work. He turns to the cameraman, making sure the lighting is right for the gruesome message they're about to record. A tripod is set up, and the camera lens focuses on the captives, ready to capture every second of the upcoming execution. They want to make sure the Feng family sees exactly what happens when their demands aren't met. Yao's eyes go wide as she realizes exactly what the camera is for. She stammers out the realization that they intend to film a murder just to force her family into paying the ransom. The kidnappers just smirk at her, confirming her worst fears with a cold, mocking comment. They've done this before, and they clearly enjoy the psychological torture just as much as the violence. She looks over at Jiang Hao, her voice trembling as she calls them animals for being so cruel. She can't understand how anyone could be so heartless, even with a massive payday on the line. One of the thugs turns his attention to Jiang Hao, brandishing a large knife and asking if he has any last words. He mocks him for being caught up in someone else's mess, promising to send him to the afterlife with a smile. The warehouse is filled with the sound of their mocking laughter as they prep the scene. They see a bound man and a terrified girl, believing they have absolute control over the situation. Yeyao turns to the man beside her, begging him to just plead for his life before it's too late. She honestly thinks that maybe, if he's humble enough, they'll show him some small amount of mercy. The thug with the knife finds Jiang Hao's calm demeanor insulting and steps closer. He mockingly offers to pass on some dying words for a fee, provided the hero has any money left in his pockets. Jiang Hao finally speaks, his voice low and completely devoid of any fear. He sighs, asking why they insist on throwing their lives away when he really didn't want to resort to killing anyone tonight. The lead kidnapper practically doubles over with laughter, calling him a complete moron for talking big while at death's door. He thinks it's the funniest thing he's heard since they started this job. Jiang Hao just nods and says he agrees to the terms. The thug pauses, his grin faltering as he asks what the hell the guy thinks he's agreeing to. A dangerous glint appears in the protagonist's eyes as he clarifies his position. He tells them that since they want a fee for his last words, they'll be the ones paying him for the privilege of dying. The thug just shakes his head, thinking the guy has finally lost his mind from the pressure. He almost feels bad about ending someone who has clearly snapped under the stress. A massive, hulking brute steps forward, drawing a heavy cleaver that gleams menacingly under the warehouse lights. He looks eager for the slaughter, stepping into the light like an executioner ready for his task. With a roar, the giant charges forward, his heavy boots thudding rhythmically against the concrete floor. Yeyao flinches, unable to look away from the impending violence about to unfold. The cleaver comes down in a violent arc, aimed straight for Jiang Hao's neck with lethal intent. The protagonist stands perfectly still, his hands still seemingly tied behind his back as the blade whistles through the air. Yiao gasps, her eyes wide with shock as she watches the heavy blade descend. Everything seems to slow down as the metallic flash of the weapon gets closer and closer to its target. In a blur of motion, Jiang Hao is suddenly behind the brute, his hands free and his eyes glowing a predatory crimson. The big man's head is snapped back as a lethal strike connects with his neck, ending his life instantly. The body of their strongest fighter hits the ground with a heavy thud, blood pooling on the cold concrete. The rest of the gang freezes in terror, realizing the man they captured isn't a victim, he's a monster. One of the goons frantically draws his pistol, his hands shaking as he levels it at the shadow standing over his dead comrade. Jiang Hao just smirks, his red eyes piercing through the darkness with a chilling intensity. Before the thug could even think about pulling the trigger, Jiang Hao kicked a metal pipe up from the ground. His body a coiled spring of lethal efficiency. He catches a falling weapon in midair, ready to finish the job he never wanted to start. Jiang Hao launches himself into the air with a violent grace, his leg connecting with a heavy metal pipe and sending it hurtling toward his targets. Before the first thug can even register the movement, Jiang Hao's foot slams into his wrist, shattering the bone and sending his handgun flying as blood sprays across the floor. The bald leader shouts for his remaining men to kill the intruder, but even as they charge, Jiang Hao stands his ground with a cold, predatory stare. Muzzle flashes light up the dim warehouse as a thug pulls the trigger, but the bullets only find empty air where the target used to be. Jiang Hao moves like a blur, flipping through the air and twisting his body to weave between the incoming gunfire with impossible speed. He closes the distance in a heartbeat, delivering a lethal strike that leaves a trail of crimson splatter in the air as the kidnapper boss watches in pure horror. The warehouse goes quiet as the last of the goons falls, leaving Jiang Hao standing calmly behind the terrified leader. As his eyes begin to glow with a menacing crimson light, the boss stammers out a desperate question, wanting to know exactly what kind of monster he's dealing with. Jiang Hao leans in close, his voice a chilling whisper as he tells the man that he isn't even worthy of knowing the name of the person about to end him. With effortless strength, he slams the leader's head into the concrete floor, the impact cracking the stone and ending the threat once and for all. After the slaughter, Jiang Hao reaches into the boss's pocket and pulls out a thick stack of $100 bills, fanning them out with a clinical indifference. He stands over the body and sighs, mockingly apologizing for collecting his fee, before giving the man a chance to say any last words. He turns his attention to Yiao, who is still bound and trembling. She looks up at him with wide eyes, pleading for him to untie the ropes. Instead of walking over, Jiang Hao simply flicks his wrist, sending a heavy blade spinning through the air toward the captive girl. The knife whistles past her, severing the ropes with surgical precision and freeing her hands in a single, fluid motion. She manages a shaky, "Thank you," but Jiang Hao doesn't stick around for gratitude, telling her to keep his presence a secret as he disappears into the night. By the time the authorities and emergency services swarm the warehouse, Jiang Hao is long gone, leaving Yiao sitting alone on the back of an ambulance. The man in the white suit and Elder Jin rush onto the scene, their faces pale with worry until they spot Yiao safe and sound among the flashing police lights. She throws herself into her grandfather's arms, sobbing as the weight of the night's terrors finally catches up to her. A police officer approaches the pair, notepad in hand, asking for a detailed description of the mysterious man who single-handedly took out the entire gang. Yiao wipes her tears and delivers a blatant lie, claiming her savior was a short, chubby man in his late 40s wearing a mask. High above the city, a thin crescent moon hangs in the silent night sky, the only witness to the truth of what really happened in that warehouse. Later at the manor, Elder Jin sits with Yiao and tells her he knows her too well to be fooled. He knows she lied to the police. She looks down, her voice small but firm as she admits the truth, explaining that she couldn't betray the man who literally saved her life. Elder Jin nods slowly, acknowledging her gratitude but warning her that a family as prominent as theirs has to be careful of anyone with hidden motives. She promises her grandfather she understands, and he gently tells her to head to her room and try to get some much-needed rest. Once she's alone, Yiao leans against her bedroom door, the old man's warning echoing in her head as she wonders if her savior really does have a darker agenda. Back in the study, Elder Jin's expression hardens as he speaks to his subordinate, his tone shifting from grandfatherly to the calculating head of a powerful house. He places the man in charge of Yiao's personal security, making it clear that there can't be any more mistakes like today's kidnapping. He then issues a secret order to investigate the warehouse scene, determined to find the real person who slaughtered the kidnappers. Meanwhile, Jiang Hao is a blur of motion as he sprints through the city streets, using his supernatural speed to cover miles in minutes. He reaches the perimeter of the Feng manor and scales the wall, slipping through the shadows as he makes his way back to the main house. As he walks through the front doors, he finds the family still gathered in the hall, their eyes immediately turning toward him. Feng Heiyaming points an accusing finger, shouting at his grandfather about Jiang Hao's total lack of respect for returning so late after just arriving. Jiang Hao barely looks at him, coolly asking if the Feng family has a rulebook with a mandatory curfew he should be aware of. Feng Wanaming steps in to settle the dispute, sharply rebuking Feng Heiyaming for his disrespect toward the man who is supposed to be his future brother-in-law. Feng Heiyaming just scoffs, mocking Jiang Hao as a broke kid with no background who could never hope to compare to someone like Wan Zhaiming. The mood turns serious as Feng Wanaming mentions Lord Lei, the king of the city's underworld, warning that Wan Zhaiming's godfather won't take the family's insult lightly. He stares intently at Jiang Hao, noting that the rumors of impending trouble from the underworld are almost certainly more than just talk. Feng Heiyaming lets out a final huff of annoyance and storms off, leaving a heavy silence hanging in the luxurious hallway. Feng Wanaming places a steadying hand on Jiang Hao's shoulder, telling him not to take the insults to heart and promising that the family will protect him. Jiang Hao gives a slight, knowing smile. He thanks Uncle Feng for the kindness, but makes it clear he isn't afraid of Lord Lei or anyone else who comes looking for trouble. Elder Feng stands in the hallway, his face etched with disapproval as he warns Jiang Hao that youthful arrogance can lead to regrets when it's already too late. He huffs, making it clear that such late arrivals are not to be tolerated again under his roof. Jiang Hao doesn't back down, coolly stating that if facts are considered arrogance, then he has nothing more to say. He offers a brief nod to Feng Wanaming before turning his back on the elders to head up to his room. Watching him go, Feng Wanaming tries to soothe his father, urging Elder Feng not to take the young man's pride personally. Elder Feng only sighs, a heavy sense of foreboding in his eyes as he worries that this guest might bring disaster to the family. The next morning breaks over a quieter part of the city, where rows of traditional tiled roofs huddle together under a clear blue sky. The bustling energy of the high-rise districts feels worlds away from these narrow streets. Jiang Hao stands before a weathered iron gate, checking the address against his memory. He's certain this is where Red Wolf's family is supposed to live, but the house behind the bars looks strangely still. He leans against the wall, rubbing his chin in thought as he notices the lack of movement inside. The absence of the family he expected to find here leaves him unsettled. An older woman sitting nearby with a baby calls out to him, breaking his concentration. She tells him he's far too late, as the entire family moved away a year ago. Jiang Hao approaches her, asking if she has any idea where they went. While she doesn't know their current location, she mentions a local girl who was once very close to them who might have some answers. The woman explains that the girl hasn't been around much lately, only returning to the neighborhood once every few weeks. She looks up at him with a mix of curiosity and local helpfulness. Jiang Hao pulls out some cash and hands it to the woman, asking for a simple favor. He wants her to give him a call the moment that girl shows up in the neighborhood again. As he walks away, Jiang Hao's mind is racing with questions about why Red Wolf's family would suddenly vanish without a trace. The timing feels too convenient to be a coincidence. Looking down the long, sun-drenched street, he can't help but wonder if this disappearance is somehow linked to the ambush that nearly cost him and Red Wolf their lives. The shadow of his past continues to loom over his every move. In another part of the city, a sleek modern skyscraper towers into the clouds, a symbol of wealth and influence. Within its walls, a different kind of plot is being hatched. Inside a luxury suite, Wan Zhaiming lies in bed with a woman, the morning light filtering through thin curtains. Their rest is interrupted by a persistent disturbance at the door. Wan Zhaiming sits up, his expression sour as he demands to know who has the nerve to wake him so early. The woman beside him stirs, looking equally annoyed by the interruption. The door opens to reveal Kaingzi, a stern-faced man in a black tank top. Wan Zhaiming ignores the woman and gets straight to business, asking for the update he requested. Kaingzi stands in the doorway, reporting that the target is Jiang Hao, a high school dropout whose father was an old comrade of Feng. He notes that the kid vanished for years after his father passed away. The bald man continues, mentioning rumors that Jiang Hao spent his missing years abroad engaged in illegal work. He suggests that Jiang Hao only reappeared because he learned about Wan Zhaiming's engagement to a daughter of the Feng family. Kaingzi's face hardens as he delivers the details, emphasizing that the kid was essentially a ghost until very recently. The information paints a picture of a man with plenty of secrets and potentially dangerous skills. Wan Zhaiming's temper flares, his fists clenching as he insults Jiang Hao, calling him nothing more than lowly trash. He can't stand the thought of someone like that interfering with his plans. Kaingzi offers to take care of the problem quietly, but Wan Zhaiming holds up a hand to stop him. He wants to try a peaceful approach first, planning to meet with Feng Yian before resorting to lethal force. Later, Wan Zhaiming sits across from Feng Yian in a high-end restaurant, the atmosphere between them tense despite the elegant surroundings. Feng Yian sips her tea, her gaze steady and questioning. Feng Yian sets down her cup and asks directly why Zhaiming asked her out today. She looks elegant in her pink dress, but her tone is guarded. Wan Zhaiming leans forward, his voice pleading as he asks her if she's really going to go through with her father's arrangement and marry a broke stranger. He tries to sound concerned for her well-being. He grows more desperate, suggesting that they should elope together. He argues that once they are officially a couple, her father will have no choice but to accept them. Feng Yian looks away, her face filled with conflict. She rejects the idea immediately, stating that eloping would destroy her father's hard-earned reputation and that he values his promises above all else. Wan Zhaiming's peaceful facade cracks as he stands up, shouting about the humiliation his own family will face if the engagement is called off. He demands to know who will compensate him for becoming the laughingstock of the city. Remaining composed, Feng Yian offers a sincere apology on behalf of her father. Her hands are clasped over her chest as she stands, prepared to end the conversation. She tells him firmly that their fate ends here, and he needs to accept reality. She turns to leave, leaving a stunned and furious Wan Zhaiming standing alone at the table. Back in his car, Wan Zhaiming's hand trembles with rage as he dials a number on his smartphone. Any pretense of a peaceful resolution is gone. He barks an order into the phone, telling Kaingzi to move forward with Plan B. His eyes are cold, and the bow tie around his neck seems to choke him as his anger boils over. In his room, Jiang Hao is focused on his training, sweat dripping from his brow, as he powers through a series of one-armed push-ups. He's interrupted by his phone ringing with news from the neighbor. He quickly pulls on his jacket and heads for the stairs, where he finds Feng Wanaming relaxing with a cup of tea. He tells his host that he's heading out to take care of some personal business. A taxi pulls up to the curb near a busy city street, the driver leaning out the window to ask Jiang Hao where he needs to go. The city lights glow brightly in the background. Jiang Hao tells the driver to take him to Pying Road. The driver flashes a friendly, perhaps too wide smile and tells him to hop in. As he settles into the backseat, Jiang Hao notices a large, scowling man with a cigarette already sitting there. The driver apologizes, claiming business is slow, and he needs to pick up extra passengers along the way. The taxi pulls away, weaving through the late-night traffic as it leaves the brightly lit shopping districts behind. The urban landscape begins to thin as they drive. Soon, the taxi is racing down a deserted road flanked by dark fields, far from the safety of the city. The driver grips the wheel tightly as the car's headlights cut through the gloom. Jiang Hao looks out the side window at the passing darkness, his expression turning suspicious. He breaks the silence, coldly asking the driver and the other man exactly where they are taking him. Jiang Hao is sitting in the back of a taxi, wondering why these guys are taking him so far out. He asks them what the hell is going on. The guy in the front tells him to chill. He says their boss just wants a little chat and they'll be there shortly. They pull up to this massive villa at the end of the road. It's definitely not a friendly social visit. Jiang Hao hops out, but the driver tells him he has to enter alone. The boss wants a private word. He walks up to the front door where a guard is waiting. The man tells him the boss won't harm him as long as he obeys orders. Jiang Hao steps inside, genuinely curious to see who's behind this whole setup. Inside, it's all luxury. A man in a white suit lounges on the couch with a glass of wine, flanked by a massive, bald heavy. Jiang Hao stares him down, but he has no idea who this guy is. The man in the suit, Wan Zhaiming, just laughs. He says they know all about him, the trash who's marrying into the Feng family. Jiang Hao isn't interested in the insults. He just wants to know why he was brought to this place. Wan Zhaiming keeps digging, calling Jiang Hao a poor scumbag who isn't worthy of his fiancée. He says it's a total disgrace that someone like Jiang Hao ever defeated him in the past. The boss gets serious and gives Jiang Hao an ultimatum. Leave a finger behind, quit the Feng family, and get out. Jiang Hao stands there in silence as the big guy behind the couch starts to move in. Jiang Hao finally speaks up with a cold smirk, asking what they'll do if he simply refuses. Wan Zhaiming loses his smile and orders his heavy, Qiang, to teach Jiang Hao some manners. Qiang cracks his knuckles, looking like he's about to have a lot of fun with this. But then the door gets kicked in. It's Xiao Su, the driver from before, rushing in to intervene. Xiao Su steps in front of Jiang Hao, telling the thugs to get out of his way. He explains that the family head feared for Jiang Hao's safety and sent him to follow. Qiang isn't impressed and lunges forward with a massive punch. He swings with everything he's got, aiming right for the bodyguard. Xiao Su blocks the blow, but he's shocked by the sheer power behind it. The force is just too much, sending him flying backward through the room. Jiang Hao watches him hit the floor, unimpressed with the meager help his father-in-law sent. Two dark silhouettes stand in his way now. Wan Zhaiming tells him to follow them to the courtyard. Outside, a couple of guys are digging a deep hole in the dirt. It's pretty clear what it's for. One guy told Jiang Hao that he had chosen a one-way trip to hell. Jiang Hao just stared down into the pit. Qiang looms over him, asking if he's going to jump in himself or if they have to force him. Jiang Hao sighs and covers his face. He says he didn't want to kill, but they're forcing his hand. One of the diggers loses his temper and swings a shovel right at Jiang Hao's head. Jiang Hao doesn't even flinch. He just reacts in a blur of movement. The thug misses completely, and Jiang Hao just stands there as the guy loses his balance. He falls straight into the hole he was digging, screaming all the way down. Another thug looks down at his fallen comrade and starts yelling at Jiang Hao for fighting back. He charges at Jiang Hao, screaming that he's going to kill him. Jiang Hao just pivots and lands a solid strike that sends the guy spinning. And just like that, the second guy joins his friend at the bottom of the pit. Qiang and another thug draw their knives. They're done playing around. One of them leaps at Jiang Hao, aiming a blade straight for his throat. Jiang Hao is way faster. He catches the knife midair with his bare hand. Before the guy can even blink, Jiang Hao grabs him by the face. It's already over. Jiang Hao doesn't waste any more time. He kicks off the ground, causing a massive shockwave that tears through the courtyard. He lands smoothly, a confident smirk playing on his face. The thugs never stood a chance against him. A massive crater now sits in the middle of the yard, filled with the unconscious bodies of the guys who tried to jump him. Jiang Hao looks down at the mess he made. His eyes glow with a faint, dangerous red light. The big, bald thug is crawling on the ground, begging for mercy. He's completely broken. Jiang Hao couldn't care less about his pleas, but the guy made a surprisingly professional move by slamming his own head against a rock, knocking himself out cold. With the villa behind him, Jiang Hao calmly walks away from the destruction. He's got bigger things to worry about now. The massive estate falls silent, lit only by the house lights. He's finished here for the night. Later that night, Jiang Hao is sitting on a park bench, cooling off with a drink. He tells his driver, Su, to take him to Lanyang Road. Su is still shaken, asking what happened to the people back at the villa. Jiang Hao just says they've already left. They stop at a busy intersection. Jiang Hao tells Su to head out and not to follow him. He's going solo from here. He ends up at a quiet street corner, stopping in front of a small shop where an old woman is sitting. The old lady, whom he calls elder sister, asks why he's so late. She mentions that girl came back a long time ago. Jiang Hao thanks her and heads to a nearby apartment, giving the door a firm knock. A woman with her hair in a ponytail opens the door, looking completely confused. She asks who he's looking for. Jiang Hao looks her over. He asks if she's Sun Zin, but she immediately gets defensive and claims he's got the wrong person. He introduces himself as Jiang Hao, claiming to be her brother's best friend. He's clearly using an alias to hide his identity. To prove he's telling the truth, he pulls out a green jade pendant. Sun Zin recognizes it instantly. It belongs to her brother. Her face goes pale as she realizes who he is. She immediately asks where her brother is right now. Jiang Hao goes silent, his eyes casting a dark shadow. He knows the truth is going to be hard for her to hear. He lies to her, saying her brother is just working abroad, and asked him to check in on the family. Sun Zin breathes a sigh of relief. She buys the story and invites big brother Jiang Hao inside. Inside the apartment, things are pretty rough. Their mother is bedridden and clearly very sick. Jiang Hao asks where the younger brother, Sun Li, is. Sun Zin's expression darkens again. She starts to explain that things have been very difficult for them lately. Suddenly, the door bursts open. A guy rushes in, shouting that something terrible has happened. He's out of breath, telling Sun Zin that her brother, Li, has fallen into a huge predicament. Sun Zin tries to calm him down, asking what exactly happened. The guy Dong is frantic. He explains that a rival boss from the fresh food market came by to stir up trouble for Li's business. This new boss claimed Li was monopolizing the market and demanded 100,000 in compensation. Sun Zin is horrified. They don't have that kind of money lying around. Cut to a van speeding through the city at night. The tension in the air is thick. Dong explains the backstory while driving. Li was forced to borrow money from a dangerous loan shark named Black Tiger just to pay for their mother's medical bills. They pull up in front of a flashy building with a sign that reads, Soaring Passion Bar. Jiang Hao puts a hand on Dong's shoulder, telling him to stay outside while he and Sun Zin go in. It's about to get dangerous. Jiang Hao and Sun Zin push through the entrance, heading into the belly of the beast. Inside, the club is pumping. Music blares while people drink and throw money around like it's nothing. In the center of the club, there's a boxing ring with a crowd cheering for blood. A karate expert in a white gi lands a devastating kick right into his opponent's stomach. The fighter cheers, celebrating his easy victory while his opponent lies motionless on the canvas. Up in the VIP section, two men watch the match. One of them is bragging about the expensive karate expert he hired from Japan. A henchman leans in and whispers to the tattooed boss, Brother Bao, that Sun Li's sister has finally arrived. Brother Bao gives a cold smirk and tells them to let her in. Jiang Hao and Sun Zin walk right into the lion's den. Inside the VIP lounge, Sun Zin stands nervously behind Jiang Hao as they face the local boss, Brother Bao. A hulking guard stands watch by the door. Brother Bao, a massive man covered in intricate tattoos, leans back on his sofa and blows a thick cloud of cigar smoke. He demands the money immediately, threatening to permanently cripple Sun Zin's brother if they don't pay up. Jiang Hao remains remarkably calm, stepping forward to shield Sun Zin. He tells Bao that they've come to settle the debt and there's no need for any more violence. One of Bao's thugs snaps at Jiang Hao, outraged that he would dare address the boss so casually. Brother Bao just watches with a cold, calculating gaze. Bao leans in, his face scarred and intimidating. He warns Jiang Hao that if his proposal isn't satisfactory, things will end tragically for both of them. Unfazed, Jiang Hao offers 50,000 to close the matter. He adds a condition. Bao must apologize for the illegal kidnapping of Sun Li. The room erupts in laughter. Brother Bao, also known as Black Tiger, finds the bold brat hilarious, nodding that in 20 years, no one has ever dared to insult him like this. Jiang Hao's eyes narrow as he locks onto Black Tiger's gaze. He proposes a challenge. If he wins a fight, the entire debt is wiped clean. Black Tiger points a finger at Jiang Hao, accepting the terms with a sneer. He adds that if Jiang Hao actually wins, he'll even kneel and call him Grandpa. Below the VIP area, the club's private arena is lit up. A muscular karate expert stands in the center of the ring, waiting for his next victim. Jiang Hao starts walking down to the ring, his expression unreadable. Behind him, Sun Xin clutches her chest, terrified of what's about to happen. As Jiang Hao steps onto the canvas, the karate fighter sneers at him, calling him scum for even stepping into the ring. The referee stands between the two men and raises his hands. With a sharp shout, he signals the start of the match. The karate expert wastes no time, lunging forward with a ferocious roar. His eyes are filled with bloodlust as he aims a powerful punch at Jiang Hao's head. The fighter's fist stops inches from Jiang Hao's face, meeting only air. Jiang Hao hasn't even flinched, his speed completely outclassing his opponent. Out in the crowd, Sun Xin can't bear to watch. She covers her eyes with her hands, letting out a scream of terror. Jiang Hao leaps high into the air with a blur of movement. The karate expert looks up, his face twisted in a mixture of confusion and fear. Jiang Hao delivers a lightning-fast kick that connects squarely with the fighter's head. The impact is so powerful it sends the man stumbling back. Blood pours from the karate expert's nose as he glares at Jiang Hao. He's never been humiliated like this in his own ring. Driven by pure rage, the fighter charges again, throwing everything he has into a desperate attack. Jiang Hao stands his ground, a small, confident smile playing on his lips. To him, the expert is moving in slow motion. The fighter lets out another guttural roar, his face contorted with effort. He refuses to believe he's being toyed with by a nobody. He leaps toward Jiang Hao, throwing a wide, heavy punch intended to end the fight in one blow. Jiang Hao catches the massive fist with a single hand, stopping the man's momentum instantly. The sheer difference in strength is staggering. Before the fighter can react, Jiang Hao drives a punishing punch into his solar plexus. The man gasps, blood spraying from his mouth. Jiang Hao follows up with a brutal uppercut that lifts the heavy fighter off his feet. The force of the blow echoes through the entire club. While his opponent is still in the air, Jiang Hao unleashes a flurry of rapid-fire kicks. Each one lands with bone-crunching precision. A final, devastating kick catches the fighter right in the face. His headband flies off as he's sent hurtling across the ring. The karate expert is nothing more than a ragdoll now, flying backward through the air toward the ropes. Jiang Hao delivered a final, decisive kick to the fighter's face, leaving the entire arena in dead silence. The fighter hits the floor with a heavy thud, his body limp and unmoving. The match was over the moment it began. Black Tiger stands at the edge of the ring, his cigar nearly falling out of his mouth in shock. His prized fighter has been decimated. Jiang Hao looks up at the boss, a mocking glint in his eyes. He scoffs at the idea of such a weakling being considered an expert. Black Tiger is sweating now, his bravado replaced by genuine disbelief. He can't understand how someone who hasn't even entered the realm could be this strong. Sun Xin lowers her hands, her eyes wide with amazement. She whispered to herself, unable to believe how powerful Brother Jiang truly is. In the shadows of the VIP section, a sophisticated man in a brown suit watches with keen interest. Jiang Hao has certainly made an impression. Jiang Hao hops down from the ring and begins walking toward Black Tiger. His pace is slow and deliberate, radiating a quiet menace. He stops in front of the tattooed boss and reminds him of their deal. It's time for Black Tiger to kneel and fulfill his promise. Jiang Hao casually reaches for a bowl of fruit and picks up an apple. Panicked, Black Tiger draws a handgun and Sun Xin screams a desperate warning. Jiang Hao doesn't even look at the gun. He calmly remarks that he really doesn't want to kill anyone, but the boss is forcing his hand. Losing his nerve, Black Tiger screams that he'll send Jiang Hao to see his grandmother and pulls the trigger. The muzzle flash lights up the room. In a display of inhuman reflexes, Jiang Hao tilts his head just as the bullet whizzes past. He remains completely unperturbed, still holding his apple. Jiang Hao's gaze turns ice cold, his eyes glowing with a dangerous red light as he focuses on the threat before him. He is no longer just a mere participant in a bet. With a flick of his wrist, Jiang Hao doesn't even move from his spot. A sudden, violent force erupts, catching Black Tiger completely off guard as Sun Xin cowers in the background. The bullet, which was intended to take Jiang Hao's life, has been split perfectly in two. The metal pieces clatter onto the floor, spent and useless. Black Tiger gasps in absolute horror as a single, glowing fragment of the bullet hangs in the air right before his eyes. He realizes too late the kind of monster he has provoked. In a blur of motion, Black Tiger is sent flying backward, his life ending before he can even let out a final scream. Jiang Hao stands tall, the undisputed victor of the night. The surrounding thugs are frozen in place, their eyes bulging with pure terror. Their boss, the man they feared and served, has been decimated in an instant. Silence falls over the club as Jiang Hao stares down at the fallen leader. The remaining guards immediately drop their weapons and fall to their knees, trembling with fear. "Please spare us," they beg, tears streaming down their faces. They frantically plead that they were misled and have families who depend on them for survival. The sophisticated man in the brown suit, who had been watching the entire match, finally steps forward. Jiang Hao acknowledges him with a sharp command, "Speak." The man warns Jiang Hao that the club is wired with security cameras. He introduces himself and offers to handle the evidence and the police, even offering to help release Jiang Hao's kidnapped friend. Jiang Hao regards the man with suspicion, questioning why he should trust a total stranger. The man smiles smoothly, explaining that he simply wants to build a mutually beneficial friendship. Recognizing the utility of the offer, Jiang Hao gives a short, decisive nod. "Fine," he says, "let's handle it the way you said. It's a deal." The man watches with keen interest as Jiang Hao and Sun Xin depart. He is intrigued by Jiang Hao's unusual power and is certain they will meet again soon. The scene shifts to the next day at the grand Feng mansion. Two stoic guards stand watch at the entrance of the sprawling, luxurious estate. Inside, the Feng family is gathered for dinner in a dining hall lit by a warm fireplace. Jiang Hao, known to them by his alias Hao, sits quietly among the group. A young woman with a sharp tongue huffs in annoyance. She complains loudly that her sister refuses to come home, blaming Hao for the family's discord. The head of the household, a dignified man with graying hair, sips his coffee and shoots her a stern look. He tells her that if she has nothing useful to say, she should stay silent. Ignoring the petty drama, Jiang Hao pushes his chair back and announces that he is full. He decides to head out for a walk to clear his head. Before he can reach the door, the older man, Uncle Feng, calls out to him. Jiang Hao stops and turns back, asking if there is a problem. Uncle Feng hands Jiang Hao a leather folder, explaining that his daughter, Yian, urgently needs it. Since he is busy, he asks Jiang Hao to deliver it to her company. As Jiang Hao walks out, the girl with the ponytail glares after him. She mutters under her breath that she will eventually find a way to kick him out of their house. Jiang Hao makes his way across the city and soon arrives at the sleek, modern headquarters of the Yiran Company. He enters the spacious lobby and approaches the reception desk, calmly stating that he is there to deliver documents to President Feng. A professional receptionist looks up and offers a polite smile. She gestures toward the elevators, directing Jiang Hao to head upstairs to the executive offices. Jiang Hao steps out of the elevator. A woman behind him says thanks. He passes a guy in a long coat and sunglasses who looks like trouble. Jiang Hao stops, his gaze turning sharp as he senses something off. He looks back, recognizing the man as the Black Ghost, a high-level assassin. He wonders why someone like that is lurking in Wuling. A door slides open. Jiang Hao enters an office where a woman named Yian is waiting at her desk. She doesn't look happy to see him, telling him he should have knocked first. Jiang Hao hands over the documents she wanted. She coldly tells him he can leave. Jiang Hao just smirks, asking if this is really how she treats her guests. He tells her she should stay inside since the city isn't safe right now. Yian calls him petty and tells him to leave. Jiang Hao just shrugs it off and warns her to be careful. Out on the street, a red supercar drifts to a halt right in front of him. Jiang Hao watches as the driver pulls up. His friend Heiyaming pops his head out and invites him to a street race. Jiang Hao says he isn't interested, but Heiyaming mentions a $1 million prize he's willing to split. Jiang Hao stops. He's actually short on cash, so the offer is pretty tempting. He double-checks the deal, $500,000 just for one race. He hops in. If it's for the money, he's in. The McLaren roars to life and speeds away. They head up into the winding mountain pass. At the starting line, they meet a group of local racers. A big guy named Lei Xiao who asks who the new guy is. The locals start trash-talking, calling Jiang Hao a live-in son-in-law and bringing up his dead father. Jiang Hao doesn't flinch, telling the big guy he'll say whatever he wants. Lei Xiaohu is amused by his guts. Heiyaming warns Jiang Hao that Lei Xiaohu is a major troublemaker, but Jiang Hao doesn't seem to care. A girl takes her place in the middle of the road and signals that they're ready to start. Lei Xiaohu in his car promises to show them why they call him Lord Tiger. Jiang Hao asks about the other driver, and Heiyaming explains it's Jin Shixuan, a well-known racing expert. Jin Shixuan sits calmly in his car, looking ready to go. The girl raises her hand. 3, 2, 1. The cars scream off the line. They fly down the mountain road, tires screeching around the curves. Heiyaming tells Jiang Hao not to chase too hard, worried it's getting way too dangerous. Lei Xiaohu laughs as he blocks their path. Heiyaming is confused when the car ahead slows down to mess with them on the track. He starts to panic, realizing they're going to finish dead last at this rate. Jiang Hao tells Heiyaming to move to the back. He's taking the wheel. Heiyaming is terrified as Jiang Hao takes control and starts driving like an absolute maniac. The car drifts around a sharp turn at high speed. Heiyaming screams as they head straight for the edge of the road. The car skids right on the edge of the mountain cliff, barely hanging on by a thread. Heiyaming is stunned. Jiang Hao's drifting is on a level that would leave even professional racers in the dust. He thought his buddy was just some regular guy, but this handling is absolutely elite. Up ahead, the lead racer is shocked to see the red McLaren actually keeping up with him. He decides to get nasty, planning to force them into a wreck at the next sharp turn. Heiyaming loses his mind when he sees Jiang Hao casually drinking water with a dangerous hairpin turn just seconds away. Jiang Hao just stays cool, telling him the real show is only just getting started. The two cars fly around the bend as the McLaren prepares for a high-speed overtake. The lead driver grits his teeth, realizing there's no way Jiang Hao has enough space to make this pass. The cars slam into each other, sparks flying as they grind against one another for the lead. He's completely speechless that anyone would be crazy enough to try this. Jiang Hao pushes the engine to the limit, refusing to back down as they fight for position. The racer in the yellow Ferrari is furious, calling Jiang Hao a total lunatic for risking their lives. They drift side by side on the narrow mountain path, neither one willing to let off the gas. One wrong move will send them off the cliff, as the car's nose hangs over the edge of the void. The race is hitting a critical point, but Xiaohu's yellow car is clearly struggling to hold the line on the sharp turn. A split-second error at high speed sends the car clipping the barrier. It smashes right through the railing, heading straight off the cliffside. Xiaohu is thrown around violently as the car begins to disintegrate midair. The car flips end over end, completely totaled before it even hits the ground. It slams into the rocky mountainside, while Feng Heiyaming's red car pulls further away into the distance. Heiyaming takes the win, leaving the wreckage behind him without looking back once. He's already on the phone with his cousin, bragging about the victory and suggesting a big celebration dinner. The cousin isn't just interested in the race results. He wants to meet the mysterious guy riding shotgun. Heiyaming brushes it off, saying it's just his supposedly useless brother-in-law, Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao isn't in the mood for a social gathering and tells him straight up that he's not going. Heiyaming doesn't take no for an answer, using his father's reputation to pressure him into coming along just to save face. Knowing he won't hear the end of it otherwise, Jiang Hao finally gives in. Meanwhile, the scene shifts over to the city hospital. Xiao, who is in bad shape, covered in bandages while his parents watch over his bed. His father is absolutely livid that a kid from the Feng family dared to injure his son like this. Xiao, who gasps out that it wasn't just the Feng kid, it was Jiang Hao who was really the one behind it. His father doesn't care who it is. He orders his men to make sure the guy doesn't survive the night. Xiao, who grins through the pain, thinking he's finally got Jiang Hao cornered. Back at the Jinghua Hotel, Yaming leads Jiang Hao into the private room where the party is starting. Yaming makes the formal introduction, presenting Jiang Hao to his cousin. The cousin acts friendly for the crowd, offering a firm handshake of welcome. They take their seats at a table full of Wuling's more colorful characters. One of the guys at the table, Brother Crow, looks Jiang Hao over and decides he looks pretty ordinary. Yaming tries to play host, telling Jiang Hao he should offer a toast to everyone since they're all prominent figures. Jiang Hao says he doesn't like alcohol, but Crow doesn't take that for an answer and starts pouring a glass. He fills it right to the top, letting the high-proof liquor spill over the sides. Crow tells him that refusing to drink in front of him is as good as looking down on his face. Jiang Hao doesn't back down. He looks at the glass and asks Crow to pour him something real. The cousin watches from the side with a smug look, enjoying the tension building in the room. He thinks Jiang Hao is a piece of scum who's about to get what he deserves for ruining his business deal. Jiang Hao stays calm and asks what happens if he actually drinks the glass of wine. Crow just lights a cigarette, thinking he's got the newcomer exactly where he wants him. He tells Jiang Hao that they'll go glass for glass. If Jiang Hao can finish one, he'll match it. Jiang Hao ignores the glass entirely and reaches for the whole bottle of gold rum. He tilts it back and starts chugging the entire bottle right in front of the table. He slams the empty bottle down and looks Crow right in the eyes, telling him it's his turn. The rest of the guys are stunned. That was a full 3-pound bottle of liquor. Crow realizes he's been called out and can't back down now without looking like a coward. He tries to force it down, but his body isn't built for that much alcohol all at once. He immediately starts choking and sprays the drink all over the table, while his guys try to help him. The cousin stands up, furious that Jiang Hao was hiding his skills just to toy with them. Feng Yaming is losing his mind, screaming that Jiang Hao is just looking for trouble. Brother Crow is still wiping rum off his chin, looking like he's about to explode. Jiang Hao remains completely unfazed, telling them they brought this on themselves. That was the final straw. Crow snaps and lunges at him. Before Crow can even get close, Jiang Hao casually flicks an empty bottle toward him. The bottle whistles through the air with pinpoint accuracy. It connects right with Crow's forehead, shattering on impact and sending him straight to the floor. The whole room freezes as Crow lies there unconscious. One of his lackeys warns Jiang Hao that he just hit a man who's tight with Fifth Master Zhang. Crow groans on the ground, blood dripping down his face as he weakly orders his men to call in reinforcements. Yaming is shaking with fear, telling Jiang Hao he's in deep trouble now, but Jiang Hao just keeps eating like nothing happened. He calmly tells Yaming that he came here to eat, and since his stomach isn't full, he's not leaving. Suddenly, the doors are kicked open as a squad of armed thugs pours into the room. They fan out and surround the table, weapons drawn. Yaming's face goes pale when he realizes who's leading them. It's the famous slicing king of Wuling himself, the legendary chopper Chen. Crow points a shaky finger at Jiang Hao, telling Chen to hack the guy to death right now. Chen steps forward, but the moment he gets a good look at Jiang Hao, his tough guy act completely vanishes. He stands there paralyzed while his shadow looms over Jiang Hao, who doesn't even bother to look up. Chen's hand tightens on his blade, but he doesn't dare make a move. Jiang Hao sits there quietly, radiating a level of pressure that has Chen sweating bullets. Chen can barely breathe as he realizes exactly who he's dealing with. The legendary slicing king is suddenly trembling with pure terror. To everyone's absolute shock, Chen drops to his knees and slams his head against the floor, begging for forgiveness. Crow is speechless, wondering if his top enforcer has completely lost his mind. Chen shouts at them to shut up. explaining that Master Jiang is the monster who took down both a Japanese warrior and the infamous Black Tiger. He reminds them that he saw Jiang Hao's power with his own eyes, and they have no idea who they're messing with. Chen continues to grovel, thanking Jiang Hao for showing mercy and not killing them on the spot. Jiang Hao is bored with the drama. He tells them to get out of his sight so he can finish his meal in peace. Chen doesn't need to be told twice. He jumps up and tries to drag Crow out of the room. He whispers to Crow that they're dead men if they stay another second. But Crow is too stubborn and humiliated to listen. He points at Jiang Hao and shouts that he'll pay $1 million to whoever kills him. The promise of $1 million payout is enough to make the remaining thugs forget their fear. They let out a war cry and charge at Jiang Hao with everything they've got. Blades swing through the air, but the scene is cut short by a sudden spray of blood. Chopper Chen stands over a couple of his own men who tried to attack, his blade dripping. He warns the rest of them that anyone else who dares to disrespect Master Jiang will end up just like these two. Seeing his own men turning on each other, Crow finally realizes he's lost this round and starts to retreat. He gives Jiang Hao one last hateful glare, promising that this isn't over yet. The scene shifts away from the hotel to a news report on a smartphone. It's a grim story about a high school student who was murdered just a kilometer away from her school. The man watching the news is Chai Kyubai, and he's clearly a predator. He casually drinks wine while critiquing the victim's appearance. His phone starts ringing with a call from someone named Soul Snatcher. Chai Kyubai is on the phone with his mysterious contact, who asks if the mission is done. He grits his teeth, admitting he hasn't found Black Tiger's killer yet, but promises a painful end for whoever did it. On the other end of the line, a silhouetted man sitting in a car mocks him, saying he expected Chai Kyubai would get distracted by women again instead of doing his job. The contact warns that China is a dangerous place for the careless, full of hidden martial arts masters. He adds that 3 S-rank assassins from the Coles family have already crossed the border. Chai Kyubai's expression darkens at the news. He mutters to himself that time is running out, and he won't let his target escape this time. Reassuring the caller that he has everything under control, Chai Kyubai hangs up. Suddenly, a chime rings out. Someone is at his door. He hides a silenced pistol behind his back as he opens the door to find an athletic man in a camo tank top standing there. The man looks relieved, saying he's finally managed to track down the second master. Chai Kyubai invites him in to talk. Sitting on the couch, the visitor asks who would be bold enough to kill the second master's brother. He identifies the culprit as Jiang Hao, a supposedly lowly son-in-law of the Feng family. Chai Kyubai is skeptical of a mere son-in-law until the man shows him a photo on his phone, mentioning how beautiful Jiang Hao's fiancée is. He gazes at the screen, which displays a stunning portrait of Feng Yian in a pink dress. A predatory smirk creeps onto Chai Kyubai's face. He licks his lips, already planning to kidnap the woman and violate her right in front of Jiang Hao before killing them both. Meanwhile, Jiang Hao is walking through the opulent halls of the Longyan building. He's looking to spend the money he earned from the Red Wolf family on a worthy gift for his master. He stops outside the grand entrance, his eyes scanning the traditional architecture of the famous antique center. Stepping inside, he finds himself in a quiet gallery filled with rows of priceless artifacts and paintings. His attention is drawn to a large scroll depicting a gnarled pine tree, its branches reaching out across the pale silk. A shop assistant approaches, proudly explaining that this is the Green Pine, a masterpiece by the legendary artist Zhang Guiyang. A small crowd has gathered around the piece, whispering in awe of the great artist's skill and the painting's obvious value. Breaking the reverent silence, Jiang Hao points a finger at the scroll and calmly declares that the painting is a total fake. The shopkeeper's face turns bright red with anger. He warns Jiang Hao that slandering an ancient shop like theirs is a serious offense that will cost him dearly. He bellows that they've never sold a single counterfeit in hundreds of years, and their policy is to pay triple the price if a fake is ever found. Jiang Hao isn't intimidated. He touches the silk, repeating the offer of triple compensation and telling the shopkeeper to call his boss down immediately. The shopkeeper continues to shout about the shop's impeccable reputation, his voice echoing through the gallery. He waves his hands frantically, insisting that their record is flawless and their items are beyond reproach. Jiang Hao just gives him a cold, knowing smile. He tells the man once more to get the manager, as he's decided he's definitely buying this masterpiece. Before the shopkeeper can stop him, Jiang Hao reaches up and rips the painting right off the wall. The shopkeeper stammers that the president is in a restricted meeting on the 5th floor, but Jiang Hao is already turning toward the stairs with the scroll in hand. He tells the man that if the boss won't come down to face him, he'll just have to go up and find him. Up on the 5th floor, 3 distinguished-looking experts are huddled around a table, praising the divine creativity of another artwork. The door swings open as Jiang Hao strides in. One of the men stands up, demanding that he leave the restricted area at once. Jiang Hao holds up the scroll he took from downstairs, announcing that he's here to get an explanation for the fake painting he just purchased. The eldest of the group, Chu Changxing, slams his hand on the table, shouting that it's nonsense to suggest Longyan Building would ever display counterfeit goods. The other experts chime in, telling the young man he's made a huge mistake and needs to apologize before Brother Chu loses his temper. Jiang Hao unfurls the painting on their table, inviting them to reevaluate it if they're so confident. Chu Changxing huffs and pulls out a magnifying glass, leaning in close to inspect every brushstroke of the pine tree. After a long moment, he looks up at Jiang Hao, declaring it's clearly an original. He asks how a mere youth could possibly conclude otherwise. Still smiling, Jiang Hao simply asks if he's certain. Chu Changxing calls the other 2 experts over to confirm his findings. They both examine the silk and agree with their colleague, mocking Jiang Hao for either being a liar or simply incompetent. They start berating him for his insolence and arrogance, telling him that such a blatant insult to their expertise cannot be overlooked. Jiang Hao looks down at the 3 experts with a look of pure pity. He points a finger toward a specific section of the branches. He tells them to look closer and see the glaring error that they've all managed to miss. Chu Changxing is still fuming, looking through his lens again and insisting that there is absolutely no problem with the work. Jiang Hao's smirk widens. He explains that while the copyist was extraordinary, they made one fatal mistake. They made the painting too perfect without a single natural blemish. Jiang Hao continues his lecture, explaining that while the legendary Zhang Guiyang was a master, his work still contained natural imperfections. This scroll, however, is simply too perfect to be authentic. One of the managers bristle at the suggestion, shouting that it's absolute nonsense for a copy to somehow surpass the original masterpiece. Chu Changxing, realizing this youth might actually know what he's talking about, picks up the phone. He orders his staff to bring a confirmed authentic Zhang Guiyang painting and a powerful magnifying glass. Moments later, 2 scrolls are spread out on the table. Jiang Hao stands by with a confident smirk as the experts prepare to compare the 2 pieces side by side. He points out that while the brushwork on the mountains and rivers painting has subtle human flaws, the green pine scroll is eerily flawless, a hallmark of a high-end forgery. Jiang Hao holds out the 10-fold magnifying glass to the group, challenging them to see the truth for themselves if they still doubt his word. Chu Changxing leans in, his eye widening in shock as he inspects the silk. A cold sweat breaks out on his forehead as he realizes the copyist's skill truly did exceed that of the original artist. The other experts join him, their faces pale with shame. They've spent their entire lives studying ancient calligraphy and art, yet it took a mere youth to spot a fraud right under their noses. Now that the forgery has been confirmed, Jiang Hao reminds them of the gallery's public promise: triple compensation for any fake found on their premises. Chu Changxing, a man of his word, confirms that the shop will honor its policy. Jiang Hao declines a cash payout, suggesting he simply choose another painting of equal value instead. They move to a different gallery wall where Jiang Hao selects a stunning new piece. It's valued at 2 million yuan, more than the compensation he's owed, but Chu Changxing insists on covering the difference himself. Jiang Hao is taken aback by the gesture, but the old master explains that he values the chance to befriend a young man with such extraordinary talent. Meeting the old man's gaze, Jiang Hao gives a slight nod and accepts the offer of friendship. As Jiang Hao strides out of the Longyan building with the new scroll tucked under his arm, the other staff members whisper in disbelief at the small fortune brother Chu just spent on a stranger. Chu Changxing watches him depart, certain that Jiang Hao's incredible eye and composure mean he is far more than just an art enthusiast. He's likely a martial arts expert of the highest caliber. Later that evening, Jiang Hao returns to the Feng family estate. He finds the family gathered in the dining room, where Feng Wanaming warmly invites him to join them for dinner. As he takes his seat, Elder Feng notices the scroll in Jiang Hao's hand and asks if he's gone and bought another worthless painting. The elder warns him that the market is flooded with counterfeits and demands to see the work. He's also clearly suspicious of how someone like Jiang Hao even managed to enter a prestigious shop like Chu Changxing. Casually eating his meal, Jiang Hao assures the old man that he's already double-checked the painting and confirmed its authenticity. Mrs. Feng, dressed in a sharp purple cheongsam, sneers over her wine. She demands to know where he got the money for such an expensive item, knowing the family hasn't given him a cent. Feng Heiyaming tries to explain that Jiang Hao won a massive bet at the car race, but his mother immediately snaps at him to shut his mouth. Jiang Hao sets down his glass and calmly recounts the events at the gallery, explaining how he exposed a fake and earned the respect of the owner, Mr. Chu. Mrs. Feng explodes in anger, calling him a pathetic liar. She turns to Elder Feng, arguing that Jiang Hao's arrogant boasting proves he's a low-class fraud who is completely unworthy of marrying her daughter, Feng Yiyan. Unfazed by her vitriol, Jiang Hao stands up and tells them that if they choose not to believe the truth, there's nothing more to say. He turns and heads upstairs to his room, leaving the bitter family behind. Wanaming lashes out at his wife, completely fed up with the person she brought into the family. Jiang Hao ignores the drama and walks off, leaving the rest of them to stew in their anger. Despite the outburst, Wanaming knows he can't abandon the boy due to a life debt he owes to Jiang Hao's father. The scene shifts to the grand architecture of the Longyan building under a clear sky. Inside, a mysterious master in golden robes waits for his subordinate, Han Feng, to bring him a report. Han Feng confirms that Jiang Hao is indeed the same man living as a son-in-law for the Feng family. The master warns him not to be fooled by appearances, noting that reaching the foundation stage at 30 is practically legendary. Han Feng clarifies he isn't underestimating him, but points out that the entire family treats the boy like he's worthless. Seeing an opportunity to shake things up, the master gives Han Feng a specific command. Later at the Feng house, the family is in shock when Han Feng hand-delivers a banquet invitation from the elite Master Chu. Mrs. Feng is totally lost, unable to understand why a high society legend would suddenly want them at his event. Han Feng has no patience for her questions and shuts her down, asking if they're actually planning to show up. Mrs. Feng's attitude takes a sharp 180. She's suddenly all smiles and apologies, telling the visitor not to be angry and making excuses for how hasty the family acted. But the messenger isn't interested in small talk. He's only there for one person, and he wants to know why Jiang Hao isn't home. Mrs. Feng and her husband are confused. Why would someone as powerful as Master Jin invite them to a banquet? The messenger isn't interested in chatting. He just wants to know if they're coming or not. Mrs. Feng quickly plays along, but she can't help wondering where Jiang Hao disappeared to. Feng Wanaming asks if the messenger has heard of Jiang Hao, hoping for some clues about his connection. The guy just laughs. Apparently, Jiang Hao's reputation as a useless son-in-law is well known everywhere. Meanwhile, Jiang Hao is at a quiet restaurant, thinking about getting a gift for his master and some new clothes. He stops mid-bite when someone reaches into his bowl and grabs a dumpling. A man in a trench coat and sunglasses is sitting right across from him. Jiang Hao asks why he's helping himself to someone else's food without asking. The man doesn't care about the food. He's here to settle a blood debt for his brother. Jiang Hao stays remarkably calm, asking just who this brother is supposed to be. Black Panther, the man growls, vowing to make Jiang Hao pay 100-fold. Jiang Hao watches him leave, realizing these guys will likely target the Feng family to get to him. He decides to stick around for a while to handle this, instead of visiting his master right now. Right on cue, his annoying younger relatives show up to dump more insults on him. They've decided that his reputation as a loser is completely deserved. Jiang Hao just advises them to go study and quit hanging out with criminals. That really sets them off. They think he's finally lost his mind to dare tarnish their reputation. He tells them flat out that their friends are drug traffickers who are going to get caught. He walks out of the restaurant, leaving them fuming behind him. They're insulted that he had the nerve to call them cowards for hiding. They decide to follow him and give him a lesson he'll never forget. Jiang Hao heads into a deserted alley, with the relatives trailing not far behind. He stops, sensing that they aren't the only ones following him into the shadows. Suddenly, 3 vans screech to a halt, completely blocking off the street. A whole mob of thugs jumps out, brandishing metal pipes. Their leader steps forward, looking like he's ready for a fight. The relatives recognize him immediately as Brother Feng, a top enforcer for Master Lei. They figure Jiang Hao must have pissed off the wrong people to have enforcers like this coming for him. From where they're standing, their son-in-law is in imminent danger. The girl wants to help, but her brother tells her they have no desire to get involved. He actually hopes Jiang Hao dies so the sister doesn't have to marry him. Jiang Hao doesn't look worried at all, he just asks what they're after. Brother Feng wants to cripple him as payback for what happened to Master Lei's son. Jiang Hao tells him to go ahead, he won't even move a muscle. The boss lunges forward, swinging a heavy blade straight for his head. The girl flinches, unable to watch the carnage about to unfold. In a blur, Jiang Hao delivers a devastating kick that catches the enforcer right in the chest. The impact is so powerful it sends the boss flying through a parked van. The thugs scramble to help their broken leader, completely shocked by what just happened. Brother Feng can barely breathe, warning his men that they're no match for this monster. They don't wait around to see what else he can do, hauling their boss into the van and peeling out. After dealing with the trash, Jiang Hao starts walking away like nothing ever happened. Feng Zixuan is left behind, staring at his back in absolute shock. Jiang Hao turns around to deliver one final warning to the cousins. Her brother is so terrified that he can barely keep his jaw from hitting the floor. The thugs aren't in any rush to get back up, swearing they'll never cross him again. Later that day, Jiang Hao arrives at a sleek corporate office building. He doesn't wait for an invite before giving a firm knock on the door. He steps into the office of Feng Yian, who is busy looking over some work. She doesn't look pleased to see him, asking what he wants from her now. Jiang Hao gets straight to the point, warning her that her current situation is critical. Yian isn't interested in his advice, telling him that her father's deal doesn't give him any rights. She makes it crystal clear, there is no way she is ever going to marry him. Jiang Hao remains calm, explaining that entering her family was never his desire. She's insulted, accusing him of blackmailing her father with some old emotional debt. He looks at her and asks if the idea of marrying him really bothers her that much. To her surprise, he grants her freedom right then and there, vowing never to marry her. Yian wants proof and pulls out an annulment document she already had ready. She points at the paper, demanding that he sign it to make it official. Without a single moment of hesitation, Jiang Hao picks up the pen and signs it. He hands the papers back and tells her to go home, because it isn't safe for her outside. As he walks away, Yian is already on the phone celebrating with Wan Zhaiming. The sun begins to set, and with the engagement broken, a new threat emerges. Back at the Feng house, the family sits down for dinner, but Yian's seat is empty. Jiang Hao tries to call her, but her phone is completely unavailable. Meanwhile, Yian is out on the town at the local fashion building. She's with Wan Zhaiming, who's acting like the perfect gentleman. She tells him she's finally free of her engagement to Jiang Hao. Wan gets a bit too close, but she insists on waiting for their wedding night. He's thrilled, thinking he's hit the jackpot with someone so conservative. Their romantic night is suddenly interrupted by a man lurking in the shadows. The man, Shangzai, tells them they'll know exactly who he is very soon. He leaps through the air with terrifying speed. Wan Jiming tries to react, but he's already been hit with a series of quick strikes. Yian is paralyzed before she can even make a sound. They both stand frozen in place as the assassin lands right in front of them. Wan is horrified, realizing they've been hit with a high-level immobilization technique. Shangzai looms over them with a wicked grin, amused that the boy recognized his skill. They are taken to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. One of the thugs reports to the second master that the kidnapping was a success. Wan Jiming is shocked to see a familiar face among the criminals. Shangzai mocks them, asking his man if he really knows this helpless wretch. The thug explains that this is the guy the Feng family chose to replace Jiang Hao. Wan Jiming screams at his captors, threatening them with his foster father's influence over the city. Without a word of warning, a blade flashes through the air, followed by a sickening splash of blood. Shangzai stands over him with a cruel, satisfied smirk, his knife now stained crimson. Wan Jiming collapses against the brick wall, clutching the side of his head where his ear used to be. The second master stares down at his victims with cold, calculating eyes. He leans in close to Feng Yian, whispering about the high school student he recently murdered. A wave of realization hits Yian. Jiang Hao's warnings weren't just talk, they were a plea for her safety. Wan Jiming grovels on the floor, begging for his life through tears of agony and terror. Another thug drags a new prisoner into the room, announcing that fifth master Zhang has arrived. Shangzai turns to his accomplice, Xiangzai, clearly pleased with how the night is unfolding. The lackey reveals the horrifying truth to the captives. Their kidnapper is none other than the older brother of the late mob boss, Black Tiger. Both Yian and Wan Jiming are paralyzed with shock at the mention of Jiang Hao killing a powerful mob boss. In a desperate bid, the middle-aged man tries to provoke Shangzai, taunting him as a coward who's too afraid to face Jiang Hao head-on. Shangzai throws his head back and laughs, promising that he will force them to watch Jiang Hao's total humiliation. He orders Xiangzai to make the call, eager to start the final phase of his twisted game. He reaches out to stroke Yian's face, ignoring her fierce demands to keep his filthy hands off her. His voice drops to a lethal whisper as he promises to make Jiang Hao watch as he violates her. The phone rings and Shangzai greets Jiang Hao with the news that his future wife is now a hostage. Across the city, a shirtless Jiang Hao sits on his bed, his voice deathly calm as he delivers a final ultimatum. He quickly pulls on his clothes, his mind already calculating the fastest route to the warehouse. Like a shadow under the full moon, Jiang Hao leaps from rooftop to rooftop with supernatural grace. He moves with a singular, lethal purpose, closing the distance between himself and the killers. Back in the warehouse, Wan Jiming continues to plead for himself, dismissing Jiang Hao as a coward who won't come. Feng Yian looks at the pathetic man beside her with newfound disgust and rising anger. She steels her resolve, deciding she would rather take her own life than be used as a tool for Shangzai's revenge. Suddenly, the heavy warehouse door is kicked open, drawing everyone's attention. Brother Crow and his men charge in, their faces twisted in rage at the sight of their captured boss. Fifth Master Zhang, now released from his bonds, confirms that his pressure points were the only thing holding him back. Crow bellows at Shangzai, promising him a slow, painful death for daring to touch the fifth master. Shangzai remains unfazed, casually unsealing the master's pressure points and inviting him to rejoin his men. He makes a chilling decree. No one leaves the factory until they have succeeded in taking his life. Fifth Master Zhang stands tall, acknowledging the assassin's bravery even as he marks him for death. Crow points a finger at Shangzai, ordering his soldiers to rip the man apart limb by limb. A sea of thugs armed with long blades floods the warehouse floor, their war cries echoing off the walls. Shangzai lets out a small, dismissive huff, a dark glint appearing in his eyes. He draws his blade in a blur of motion, ready to paint the warehouse floor red. The first wave of attackers falls before they can even register his movement. He carves through the mob with terrifying efficiency, his blade dancing through flesh and bone. His expression remains a mask of cold indifference, even as blood begins to spray. The warehouse is filled with the sounds of clashing steel and the desperate screams of the dying. Thug after thug is cut down, unable to land a single hit on the whirlwind of death. Shang Zai is a force of nature, leaving nothing but a trail of broken bodies in his wake. The warehouse erupts into violence as a group of thugs lunges at Shang Zai, their war cries echoing through the space. With lethal grace, Shang Zai weaves through the attackers, his blade carving a path of destruction as he kicks a man across the room. Brother Crow and Fifth Master Zhang watch in stunned silence, realizing that they are dealing with a man of terrifying skill. Shang Zai stands as the eye of the storm, surrounded by the fallen. The remaining guards are paralyzed with fear. He adjusts his glasses, his cold gaze scanning the room for the next threat. Desperate to end the slaughter, Brother Crow pulls out a gun, shouting that no martial artist can survive a bullet. A thunderous bang fills the air as Crow fires, the muzzle flash momentarily blinding everyone in the vicinity. The bullet streaks toward Shang Zai, a tiny messenger of death flying at terminal velocity. Using his knife as a shield, Shang Zai deflects the bullet in a shower of sparks while dispatching another foe in the same motion. He stands firm, his aura of menace filling the warehouse as he stares down his remaining enemies. Fifth Master Zhang is visibly shaken, unable to comprehend the supernatural speed he just witnessed. Feng Yian's spirit begins to break as she realizes that no help is coming for her or Wan Zhaiming. After eliminating the last of the rabble, Shang Zai walks toward his captives, his intent clear and deadly. Suddenly, the warehouse doors are thrown open, and a calm but powerful voice orders him to stop. Jiang Hao enters the arena, hands in his pockets, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the carnage around him. Shang Zai smirks at the arrival of his prey, viewing Jiang Hao's bravery as nothing more than pathetic sentimentality. Relief and terror war in Yian's heart as she begs Jiang Hao to flee, knowing the monster he is facing. A thug screams at Jiang Hao, accusing him of being the butcher of Black Tiger and promising him a slow death. Jiang Hao ignores the noise, his eyes fixed on the man in the trench coat as he demands Feng Yian's immediate release. Shang Zai lets out a deranged laugh, telling Jiang Hao that he has been eagerly awaiting this dance with death. He continues to mock the protagonist, describing how he will enjoy violating Yian before killing her husband. A sharp sound rings out as a small object strikes Wan Zhaiming, breaking the spell of his paralyzed state. Shang Zai points a finger at the whimpering man, announcing that his limbs are once again under his own control. He delivers a final, twisted order. Wan Zhaiming must strip Jiang Hao's wife bare if he wishes to leave the building alive. Wan Zhaiming starts tearing at the dress. Yian can't believe he's actually going through with it just to save his own skin. The guy just looks down, gritting his teeth. To him, his life is worth more than her dignity. Shang Zai lunges from above, blade in hand. He wants the full show before he starts breaking Jiang Hao's bones. The steel whistles past. Jiang Hao leans back, narrowly dodging the lethal strike. Jiang Hao's eyes glow a predatory red. The restraint is officially gone. He lands a crushing kick right to the gut. The impact sends a visible shockwave through the warehouse. The force sends Shang Zai flying back, crashing into the distance like he was hit by a truck. Jiang Hao turns his cold gaze toward the coward. He gives him one choice: let go or have every finger broken. Feng Yian is completely stunned, realizing she had no idea Jiang Hao was hiding this much power. Wan Zhaiming is shaking, begging for his life and promising he'll never cross him again. The assassin isn't backing down, convinced Jiang Hao only won before because he was being careless. Master Zhang shouts out a warning, telling Jiang Hao to watch out for that insanely sharp dagger. The killer lunges forward, swinging his blade with everything he's got. Jiang Hao doesn't even flinch, just reaching out with a single finger. With a simple flick, the supposedly indestructible blade shatters into a dozen pieces. The assassin's eyes go wide. He can't believe his weapon was just destroyed like glass. Before he can even react, Jiang Hao's fist connects squarely with his chest. The impact is massive, sending the guy flying across the warehouse and straight through a brick wall. Feng Yian and Wan Zhaiming can only watch in absolute terror as dust fills the air. Slumped against the rubble, the killer realizes he's dealing with someone at least S-rank. Jiang Hao steps forward, his eyes glowing as he reveals he moved past S-rank a long time ago. Seeing the monster before him, the assassin drops to his knees and begs for a chance to leave the city. But Jiang Hao isn't in a forgiving mood. He already gave the guy a chance and he blew it. As the man continues to plead for mercy, Jiang Hao just closes in for the kill. The assassin scrambles in a panic, trying to grab Feng Yian as a hostage, but it's all in vain. Feng Yian screams out his name, terrified by the sudden and shocking turn of events. It's too late. Jiang Hao grabs him by the throat like he's nothing. Gasping for air, the man asks who the hell he really is to have this kind of strength. Jiang Hao just gives him a cold smirk, reminding him that he's just the Feng family's son-in-law. The guy's heart drops as he recognizes the Wolf King, a man who was supposed to be dead. A loud crack echoes through the warehouse as Jiang Hao finishes the job. He drops the body to the floor, knowing he can't risk his true identity getting out. He looks over at Master Zhang and tells him to clean up the mess and keep the cops away. Wan Jiming is still on the floor, pathetic as ever, begging anyone who will listen for mercy. Master Zhang bows in respect, admitting that none of them would be alive right now if it wasn't for him. The rest of the crew follows suit, swearing their lives to Jiang Hao from here on out. Jiang Hao tells them all to get up. The dispute is over and the debt is settled. Then he turns his attention back to the shivering mess in the white suit. He towers over Wan Jiming and tells him that it's finally his turn. The guy is so terrified he starts calling Jiang Hao grandfather just to suck up to him. He starts rambling about how there's no real grudge between them, so there's no reason to kill him. Jiang Hao just stares him down, asking why he sent a hit squad to finish him off if there was no grudge. Wan Jiming freezes as Jiang Hao reveals he already took care of Brother Qiang and all his men. He looks him in the eye and asks if he has any last words before it ends. Panicking, the coward crawls over to Feng Yian, begging her to save him. He clings to her like a child, crying about how much he supposedly loves her. Feng Yian actually steps in front of him, telling Jiang Hao he'll have to kill her first. Jiang Hao is genuinely disgusted that she'd actually believe a guy like this really loves her. She doubles down, making excuses for the guy's pathetic behavior by calling it survival instinct. Jiang Hao just scoffs at her naivety, realizing some people are just beyond saving. Jiang Hao decides to spare him for now, but he makes it crystal clear that he's not feeling generous. He leans in with a final warning. If a single word of this gets out, he won't just kill the guy, he'll wipe out his entire family. Terrified for his life, Wan Jiming can't stop bowing and thanking grandfather Jiang Hao for the mercy. Meanwhile, the authorities finally show up at the warehouse, with sirens echoing throughout the industrial district. The Dragon Fang task force secures the perimeter and begins examining the carnage left behind. Fang Yuying takes the lead, noting that everyone inside was taken out in a single instant. An old master, Grandpa Zhu, looks troubled as he evaluates the sheer power it took to do this. One of the team members asks if this means the killer has to be at least A-rank themselves. Grandpa Zhu points out that even an A-rank warrior didn't have a chance to strike back before being crushed. Fang Yuying is baffled. Why would an S-rank fighter, basically a walking nuke, be wasting time in a small city like Wuling? Grandpa Zhu stays silent, staring at the marks and wondering if it could really be him. He realizes the case is way beyond the team's capabilities and decides to inform the higher-ups immediately. He mentions that his disciple, Han Feng, is sharp and can provide some useful insights for the investigation. Han Feng steps forward, stating he's ready to follow Fang Yuying's orders at any time. She's appreciative, but politely explains that the task force has enough members and doesn't need outside help right now. Later, Grandpa Zhu sits down for a private meeting with the leader of the Dragon Fang task force. The leader, Shi Yinan, identifies the deceased as Black Ghost, a professional assassin from the underworld. He pulls out a file, mentioning that the guy was a total degenerate who never left a single girl he assaulted alive. Grandpa Zhu suspects that a recently killed student from a local high school was likely one of his victims. Shi Yinan nods, taking a slow sip of tea as they wait for DNA confirmation to make it official. Grandpa Zhu admits that whoever killed the hitman actually did the world a massive favor by ending his evil. Still, he can't figure out why a guy whose activities were usually restricted to Southeast Asia would suddenly visit a small city. The two veterans sit in silence for a moment, considering the gravity of the situation. Rumors suggest a powerful foreign family spent a fortune to send 3 S-rank experts to take out a local boxing master. Grandpa Zhu asks if he's implying that Black Ghost was just one of them, and he simply got unlucky in a counterattack. But he quickly dismisses the idea. Black Ghost was only A-rank, and his eyes wouldn't fail him on that. Shi Yinan rubs his head, stressed that even a single A-rank fighter could cause this much chaos. He can't even imagine the absolute massacre that'll unfold if 3 genuine S-rank monsters actually show up. As the sun begins to set, everything seems quiet back at the estate. Jiang Hao is deep in meditation, his body surrounded by a fierce golden aura as he focuses his power. His phone starts buzzing, and it's a frantic call from someone begging him to save Sun Xin and her brother. He tells the guy to dry his tears and explain exactly what happened to them. Apparently, before the brother could even be rescued, a gang went and kidnapped Sun Xin as well. Jiang Hao's eyes sharpen as he asks if the caller knows where they took them. He hears that the gang is actually a terrorist group called Nightmare, and they've already moved the siblings to Jiangling. These guys are no joke. They harvest people based on their birth time to use in dark magic and corpse-refining rituals. It clicks for him that the brother wasn't just in a random dispute. He was targeted specifically for his birth time. Jiang Hao was already planning to head to Jiangling to visit his old master, but now it's become a rescue mission. He tells the caller he's got the situation handled and that he'll take care of the problem himself. As he walks out of the gate, he finds Feng Yian waiting for him in her red Porsche. She asks where he's heading and offers him a lift since she's already there with her car. Jiang Hao doesn't waste any time and tells her to take him straight to the station. While driving down the highway in her red Porsche, Jiang Hao thanks Feng Yian for keeping his secret from her uncle Feng. Feng Yian is grateful that he saved her and Wan Zhaiming's lives at the warehouse, but she still has reservations about him. She argues that if he hadn't killed the hitman's brother in the first place, they wouldn't have been kidnapped at all. She makes it clear that she doesn't want him using her debt of gratitude as leverage to force her into agreeing to marry him. Jiang Hao tells her sternly that he keeps his promises and would never resort to cheap emotional blackmail. Feng Yian offers him a black card with $1 million in cash she saved up, telling him to use it to manage his affairs for now. Jiang Hao is insulted by the gesture and asks her what she thinks she's doing, refusing to accept money for his help. Feng Yian argues that fighting isn't a viable path in modern times and asks if he plans to live off her cousin's car racing career. Jiang Hao hands the card back, stating that since the engagement is annulled, his private affairs are none of her concern. Blushing with frustration, Feng Yian snaps that she'll never interfere in his private business again. The atmosphere inside the car remains incredibly tense as they drive in silence through the city. Jiang Hao eventually warns her to stay away from Wan Zhaiming, calling him a selfish person filled with malice and evil. Feng Yian immediately defends Wan Zhaiming, claiming his past behavior was excusable given the circumstances. She accuses Jiang Hao of being envious of the other man's family status and educational background. Having heard enough of her baseless insults, Jiang Hao orders her to stop the car immediately. Jiang Hao reaches over to grab the wheel, yelling at her to stop as he's decided to leave her behind. He gets out of the red Porsche in front of the station, leaving a shocked Feng Yian sitting alone in the driver's seat. As he walks away, he tells her she's on her own and can fend for herself from now on. Feng Yian watches him walk away with a glare, convinced he's an irrational person who can't distinguish good from evil. Later that night, a sleek high-speed train roars across a bridge over the dark river, carrying Jiang Hao to his next destination. While Jiang Hao is resting in his seat, a female passenger recognizes him and asks if it's really him. It's a girl named Shixuan, but her cousin Jin Haniao is quick to mock Jiang Hao for being a live-in son-in-law. Shixuan scolds Haniao for his rudeness, while Haniao insists he's just stating the facts. She threatens to get off the train and cancel their meeting with an investor if Haniao doesn't stop being disrespectful. Shixuan apologizes on behalf of her cousin and asks Jiang Hao not to take the insults to heart. She's happy to find out he's also going to Jiangling and suggests they look out for each other on the way. Once they arrive at Jiangling Station, Haniao continues to make snide comments about Jiang Hao being a country bumpkin. Suddenly, a black luxury sedan pulls up with a screech of tires, stopping right in front of the group. A tall, lanky man named Liu Ming, who has messy dark hair and an eye patch over his right eye, steps out to greet them. Liu Ming greets Shixuan with a sinister, mocking smile, asking if she's the beautiful cousin he was told about. Haniao introduces Liu Ming to the group, completely unaware of the dark presence the man carries. Jiang Hao narrows his eyes, immediately sensing a deep, dark aura from Liu Ming that indicates he practices forbidden arts. Liu Ming invites everyone to a banquet at a hotel, and Shixuan introduces Jiang Hao as a friend she met on the rail. Jiang Hao refuses to go and advises Shixuan and Haniao to stay away, stating that Liu Ming is up to no good. Liu Ming acts offended, accusing Jiang Hao of slandering him even though they've only just met. Haniao takes Liu Ming's side, yelling at Jiang Hao for talking about his friend that way while calling him a live-in son-in-law again. Jiang Hao realizes he said all he can to warn them and decides to walk away, leaving them to their own devices. Haniao tells Shixuan to ignore the ungrateful fool as they all get into the car with Liu Ming. They pull up in front of a dilapidated and run-down building that's supposedly their hotel for the night. Shixuan is visibly worried, asking why the hotel looks so strange and neglected. Liu Ming smiles unsettlingly, claiming it's a specialty hotel with authentic cuisine that just looks a bit old-fashioned. As they step into the empty elevator, Liu Ming tells a hesitant Shixuan that the most exclusive private rooms are underground. Inside the elevator, Liu Ming tells Shixuan that she doesn't know it, but the most exclusive private room in this hotel is actually located underground. Still oblivious to the danger, Jin Haniao asks if Brother Ming is taking them to eat some special wild game. As the doors slide open, Shixuan and Haniao are roughly shoved out into a dimly lit, damp hallway. Haniao looks back at the menacing Liu Ming with sweat on his brow, asking him for the meaning of this sudden change in attitude. They are led into a room that looks like a macabre laboratory, causing Shixuan to gasp in sheer terror at what she sees. The room is filled with shelves of jars, each containing massive, writhing centipedes, scorpions, and other venomous insects. In the center, a bound prisoner screams as glowing green vapor is sucked from his mouth and eyes into a large cauldron. Liu Ming stands behind the terrified pair, revealing that Shixuan was the true target all along, and Haniao was merely the bait. Haniao shouts in anger, but Liu Ming just laughs, claiming it's a great karmic merit for Shixuan to serve his master. Liu Ming bows before a dark, seated figure and offers to send Shixuan to his room so he can enjoy her properly. An elderly man with long white hair, numerous facial scars, and a single glowing red eye, the Elder Gu Master, looks on with a cold, terrifying expression. The Elder Gu Master states that his fusion with the natal Gu is at a critical stage, so he cannot afford any reckless actions for a few days. Now tied up and helpless on the stone floor, Haniao tearfully regrets ignoring Jiang Hao's advice on the train. Liu Ming stands over them with an arrogant smirk, mocking the Jin family and mentioning the nightmare organization of the Dark World. Haniao continues to apologize to Shixuan, blaming himself for believing the lies about a racing competition investment. Shixuan notices a gaunt woman nearby and asks her how long she has been locked up in this horrific dungeon. The woman, her face pale and sunken, reveals she's been there for over 6 months and shows her distended stomach filled with glowing green veins. She warns them that the place is secure as an iron barrel, and they will soon be subjected to inhuman torture by the ugly old man. Overcome by despair and the grim sight of the other prisoners, Shixuan breaks down into uncontrollable sobbing. Nearby, Sun Zin also sits tied and bound against the wall, weakly whispering for Jiang Hao to come and save them. Jiang Hao makes his way up to the quiet estate on Qingzhou Mountain. His eldest senior brother is out feeding the birds and can't believe the kid is actually back. The big guy explains that their master went wandering 3 years ago without saying where. The old man's last words were cryptic. He might return someday, or he might be gone forever. Jiang Hao head into the master's study to see if anything was left behind. Sure enough, there's a wooden box sitting right on the desk. Inside, he finds a dragon-shaped jade pendant that matches his chest tattoo exactly. He starts reading a long letter the master wrote specifically for him. It looks like he's going to have to dig into his own history to figure out what's going on. With a huge bounty on his head, he realizes he needs to save Sun Zin and her brother first. His brother calls him for dinner, but Jiang Hao asks if he knows anything about an organization called Nightmare. Turns out they've been spotted hanging around the old orphanage where Jiang Hao grew up. He decides it's time for a long, overdue visit to his childhood home. Jiang Hao is looking over some documents when his eldest senior brother leans through the window to call him for lunch. The senior brother mentions that a group called Nightmare has been spotted hanging around the orphanage where Jiang Hao grew up. Concerned about his old home, Jiang Hao decides it's finally time to pay the place a visit. He arrives at the orphanage to find the kids outside, completely oblivious and enjoying a game of soccer. A woman in a white blazer approaches him at the gate, asking who he's looking for. He realizes it's his childhood friend, Yanzi. He gives her a smile and lets her know it's him. She's so happy she immediately breaks into tears and pulls him into a tight hug. She can't believe he actually came back after all these years and leads him inside to catch up. Once they're settled in her office, she tells him that the old director, Grandma Zhang, passed away 3 years ago. Jiang Hao takes the news hard, regretting that he never got the chance to pay her back for her kindness. Yanzi tries to comfort him, saying Grandma worked herself to the bone and that passing away was a kind of release. Their talk is interrupted when a group of thugs kicks the door open, telling everyone they need to move out now. The leader strolls in with a cigarette in his mouth, acting like he already owns the place. Yanzi tells Jiang Hao to stay back and let her handle it, clearly used to dealing with these losers. She calls their compensation offer a joke, but the lead thug just laughs and threatens to use force. He orders his guys to start smashing the place to see if she still feels like being stubborn. Jiang Hao steps in and calmly gives them exactly 1 minute to get lost before things get ugly. One of the thugs doesn't take the warning well and swings a heavy punch at Jiang Hao's face. Jiang Hao catches the fist effortlessly, stopping the guy dead in his tracks. He crushes the guy's hand until he's screaming for mercy, his eyes going cold as he stares him down. He tosses the thug aside, and the guy tells him he's made a mistake messing with their third brother. After they run off, Yanzi explains that third brother is a ruthless martial artist hired by a real estate company. She adds that Grandma Zhang's grandson, Liu Ran, was supposedly cursed by him and is currently in a coma. Jiang Hao isn't intimidated and tells her he's going to go pay this third brother a visit. The thug shouts back from the hallway, telling him to show up tomorrow at Tianyang restaurant if he's got the guts. The thugs finally clear out, leaving the office in a mess but with a clear challenge on the table. Yanzi is terrified, explaining that these people have connections on both sides of the law. She begs him not to wade into these muddy waters, fearing he'll just end up getting hurt. Instead of arguing, Jiang Hao pulls out a briefcase and drops $2 million on the table as a donation. Yanzi is stunned, wondering where a guy who just got back into town suddenly got that much cash. He tells her he earned it selling art and calligraphy, then asks her to take him to see the boy who was cursed. They head over to a nearby apartment complex where the boy's family lives. A woman named Yu Li opens the door, and Yanzi introduces her childhood friend. They walk into the bedroom where a young boy lies unconscious while a doctor monitors him. This is Dr. Zhou Jiyuan, a renowned traditional medicine specialist who was called in to help. The doctor is stumped, explaining that while the boy's pulse is normal, he simply won't wake up. Yu Li grabs the doctor's hand and begs him to save her grandson. Dr. Zhou admits he's completely powerless against whatever this strange illness is. Jiang Hao looks at the boy and sees exactly what the problem is. A purple goo worm burrowed into his head. The doctor suggests some medicine just to keep the boy alive for now, but Jiang Hao tells him not to bother. Yanzi tells Jiang Hao to stop messing around, reminding him that a human life is at stake. Auntie Yu is frantic, terrified that this stranger is going to hurt her grandson. Even Dr. Zhou joins in, demanding to know what medical sect Jiang Hao belongs to and telling him not to be so arrogant. Jiang Hao doesn't have time for the lecture. He gives her a cold, sharp look and warns her that if she wants her son to live, she needs to stay out of his way. The mother freezes, completely intimidated by the sheer intensity in the young man's eyes. Jiang Hao ignores her and asks the doctor for a sterilized scalpel. While the mom continues to panic, Dr. Zhou decides they have no other options and tells him to go ahead. The doctor hands over the tool, though he makes it clear he'll be watching closely to make sure Jiang Hao doesn't cross any lines. Jiang Hao places a hand on the boy's forehead, using his true qi to force the parasite out of the brain and down toward a safer spot. A massive bulge begins to slither down the boy's neck. Dr. Zhou is speechless, having never seen anything like this in all his years of medicine. As Jiang Hao moves the scalpel toward the boy's chest, Auntie Yu screams in horror. He tells her to keep her distance and not come any closer. With surgical precision, he makes an incision and pulls out a writhing, purple worm covered in glowing green slime. He holds the parasite up for everyone to see, explaining that its composition is so close to human tissue that modern scans could never pick it up. Yanzi watches as he sets the worm aside, worried because the boy still hasn't opened his eyes. Jiang Hao explains that the brain needs time to heal from the erosion, and he begins to transfer more of his energy into the boy to jumpstart the recovery. A moment later, the boy finally groans and wakes up. Auntie Yu rushes to his side, crying tears of pure relief. Dr. Zhou is completely humbled. He bows deeply to Jiang Hao, apologizing for his earlier rudeness and praising his incredible medical skills. Jiang Hao stays humble, telling the doctor it's fine and claiming that dealing with goo worms is more about luck than actual medicine. Auntie Yu stops him at the door, thanking him over and over for saving her grandson's life. He gives her a small smile and tells her not to mention it, as he's only doing it because of how kind Grandma Zhang was to him. As they leave, Yanzi clings to his arm, dying to know what kind of life he led after leaving the orphanage to become this capable. The next day, Jiang Hao arrives at Tianyang Tower, ready to settle the score with the people threatening the orphanage. To his surprise, Yanzi has shown up with a couple of volunteers from the orphanage, insisting that they won't let him face these thugs alone. Inside a private room, a group of thugs is feasting. One of them mentions that the kid from the orphanage probably just hired some cheap muscle. Another thug laughs, saying that with third brother there, even the King of Heaven would have to bow down and beg for mercy. Jiang Hao and his group walk into the room, his expression completely unreadable as he faces the gang. The lead thug from the previous day is there with his hand in a sling, and third brother greets Jiang Hao with a mocking smile, acting like they're old friends. Looking at the man, Jiang Hao realizes he's the same person behind the misery of the Jin and Sun families. Third brother stares back, secretly planning to use Jiang Hao as a test subject for the new heart-devouring bugs he's been breeding. He sits back and asks if Jiang Hao is really the one in charge of the orphanage's demolition deal. He gets up and pours wine, warning them right away that if they came to ask for more money, they can forget about it. Third brother acts like a gracious host, pouring wine for everyone while Jiang Hao demands to meet the boss of the demolition company. He promises to take them to see his boss after the meal, raising a glass to offer a toast to their new partnership. As he smiles, he thinks to himself that Jiang Hao won't even live long enough to make it out of the restaurant. Jiang Hao raises his glass, but his eyes narrow as he notices a faint ripple in the wine. Deep inside the glass, a tiny purple goo worm is already swimming through the red liquid, waiting to be swallowed. Jiang Hao plays along, saying the first cup shows their sincerity and that he'll take a big gulp, much to third brother's surprise. He knocks back the entire glass of poisoned wine, without a moment of hesitation. He sets the glass down and looks third brother dead in the eye, his face showing absolutely no signs of distress. Third brother is momentarily rattled. He stammers that the wine is very strong and he was just worried it might make Jiang Hao feel sick. Jiang Hao stands up, done with the games, and tells the thug they should skip the rest of the wine and go see his boss right now. They head deep into an old, imposing building that looks more like a fortress than a business office. In a dark dungeon beneath the building, an old man with long white hair stands over a fresh corpse with a glowing green bug on its chest. The elder Goo Master slowly releases a massive, glowing beetle from a jar, watching it crawl with morbid fascination. He turns to his captives, a terrified Feng and another man, and tells the girl she's far too beautiful to be killed like the others. The elder Goo Master, his face twisted in a cruel grin, talks about his plans to merge with the heart-devouring goo so he can dote on his captive, Feng in every possible way. Nearby, a fellow captive man shouts in defiance, demanding the old man pick on someone his own size instead of bullying a defenseless woman. Feng Yayao glares at her captor with fierce determination, swearing that she will take her own life and return as a vengeful spirit to claim his if he dares to touch her. The elder laughs at her empty threat and scoops her up in his arms, telling her that death won't be an easy escape from him. Suddenly, the elevator doors slide open, and Jiang Hao steps out, followed closely by the treacherous third brother. Feng Yayao's eyes widen with hope, and she cries out for help the moment she sees Jiang Hao standing there. The elder Gu master turns his gaze toward the newcomer, wondering aloud if Jiang Hao also possesses a rare yin nature physique. Third brother steps forward and introduces Jiang Hao as the head of the orphanage, claiming he only agreed to the demolition once he met the master in person. Mocking the young man, the elder asks if Jiang Hao is also looking to serve him like Liu Ming did. Jiang Hao's expression remains cold and detached as he informs the old man that he has no interest in anything other than killing him. Enraged by the blatant disrespect, the elder vows to dissolve Jiang Hao's very bones into a puddle of putrid water. The old man strikes a martial pose, summoning a swirling vortex of green, sickly energy that fills the room with a menacing glow. He unleashes a barrage of energy projectiles, but Jiang Hao is a blur of movement, effortlessly weaving through the attacks. Closing the distance in an instant, Jiang Hao seizes the elder's arm before he can react. With a powerful upward kick, Jiang Hao sends the old master soaring into the air like a discarded rag doll. The elder crashes violently into his shelves of specimens, shattering jars and spilling his experiments everywhere as third brother screams in horror. Third brother rushes to his master's side as the old man coughs up blood, furious that his disciple brought such a monster into their lair. From their spot on the floor, the two captives watch in stunned silence, realizing that Jiang Hao's power might actually be enough to save them. Jiang Hao continues his steady, calm advance as third brother frantically tells him to stay back. Pointing a finger at the terrified man, Jiang Hao coldly informs him that his turn to die will come as soon as he's finished with the old man. Desperate third brother lets out a manic laugh, reminding Jiang Hao that the 4 cups of wine he drank earlier were laced with deadly heart-devouring goo. He demands that Jiang Hao kneel and beg for forgiveness, promising to remove the parasites only if he shows total submission. Feng Yayao's face pales with worry, knowing that the heart-devouring goo is a death sentence for anyone who ingests it. Instead of begging, Jiang Hao simply turns his head and spits something out with a look of pure disgust. He stares down at the 4 writhing goo bugs he just expelled from his body and prepares to crush them under his heel. Third brother stares in absolute disbelief, unable to comprehend how someone could just spit out the lethal bugs with nothing but saliva. On the stone floor, the crushed remains of the purple parasites are nothing more than a green smear of ichor. The elder goo master trembles with fear, looking up at Jiang Hao as if he's staring at a true monster. A terrifying red wolf aura flares to life around Jiang Hao as he tells the old man that since his pets are dead, it's finally his turn. Before the elder can even scream, Jiang Hao delivers a brutal kick that connects with his chest with the force of a battering ram. The impact is so severe that it shatters the old man's ribcage, the sound of breaking bone echoing through the dungeon. Seeing his master defeated, the cowardly third brother immediately turns tail and runs, shouting that the old man is on his own. Jiang Hao doesn't let him get far, his foot landing next to a discarded soda can on the ground. With a swift kick, he launches the metal can through the air with the speed of a bullet. The can slams into the back of third brother's head, sending him face first into the floor with blood spraying from the impact. Gasping for air, the elder goo master tries one last desperate threat, claiming that his status as the head of Nightmare will lead to Jiang Hao being hunted to the ends of the earth. Jiang Hao looms over him, completely unimpressed by the mention of the criminal organization. He mentions that he once killed an Eastern European boss, a detail that causes the elder's remaining eye to widen in pure shock. The old man finally realizes the truth. The man standing before him is the legendary Wolf King, the king of assassins who was supposed to have died a year ago. Jiang Hao stares down at the dying man with cold, red eyes, telling him that a dead man doesn't need to know his secrets. He delivers a final, lethal strike, ending the elder goo master's life in a spray of blood. Silence falls over the room as Jiang Hao stands amidst the carnage, the threat to the orphanage finally neutralized. The scene shifts to the exterior of a grand, classical building under a clear blue sky, where the echo of gratitude lingers in the air. Having escaped the nightmare of the dungeon, Feng Yayao stands with another survivor, her eyes filled with tears as she thanks Jiang Hao for saving her life once again. Jiang Hao looks at her with a gentle, humble expression, telling her that there's no need for thanks as helping her was simply on his way. He instructs the other rescued man to assist in untying the remaining captives, nodding that reinforcements are already waiting upstairs to help them get to safety. Moving deeper into the facility, Jiang Hao finds Sun Xin and another man huddled together against a damp wall, still bound and terrified. Relief washes over Jiang Hao as he sees Sun Xin is safe, though a pang of guilt strikes him as he thinks of his failure to protect Red Wolf's family. He places a comforting hand on Sun Xin's head as she sobs, apologizing through her tears while thanking him for coming to their rescue. Later, outside the building, Jiang Hao stands by a white shuttle bus with Yanzi, asking her to ensure all the victims are transported to the hospital for treatment. Yanzi watches him with concern, asking where he could possibly be going instead of seeking medical attention for himself. Jiang Hao prepares to depart, his mind already on his next goal as he tells the others not to follow him. Feng quickly catches up to him, blushing as she offers her help, claiming to be an expert in the geography of the entire region. Intrigued, Jiang Hao asks her if she is familiar with the location of the Clear Breeze Pavilion near Ziyang Lake. Feng explains that while the lake is small and unmarked on most maps, she knows exactly where it is in the neighboring province. Her face lights up with excitement as she begs him to take her along, promising to be the easiest traveling companion he's ever had. Jiang Hao gives her a slight, knowing smile and tells her to head to the hospital for now, promising to find her once he is ready to set off. Feng is practically floating with joy, her hands clasped together as she imagines their upcoming journey together. Meanwhile, in a lavishly decorated office, a man of significant weight and even greater arrogance sits behind a massive wooden desk. This man, Wang Delong, calmly sips his tea, surrounded by expensive art and the quiet hum of power. He remains blissfully unaware of the storm that is about to break upon his quiet afternoon. The heavy wooden door to the office swings open, and Jiang Hao steps inside, his presence immediately shifting the atmosphere of the room. Standing before the desk, Jiang Hao fixes the man with a cold, piercing gaze and asks if he is indeed Wang Delong. Startled by the intrusion, Wang Delong demands to know who this stranger is and what business he could possibly have. Jiang Hao doesn't mince words, confronting the man about his heartless purchase of the Chengxi orphanage land and the insultingly low compensation he offered. Wang Delong's face turns a shade of purple as he stands up and points an accusing finger at Jiang Hao, snarling that the young man must have a death wish for coming here. Jiang Hao's gaze is cold. He's done playing nice. The businessman, Wang Delong, lets out a blood-curdling scream as his hand is pinned to the desk. Jiang Hao pulls the blade out, casually noting how sharp the guy's own office tools are. He gives him exactly 1 minute. Cancel the demolition or lose much more than a finger. Wang Delong clutches his bleeding hand, seething with a promise to get revenge. He tries calling for backup, but nobody picks up the phone. Jiang Hao tells him to stop bothering. He knows exactly who the guy is trying to call. He bluntly informs the businessman that his masters have already been sent to hell. The guy freezes. He can't believe his elite Gu master guards are dead. Terrified, he breaks and begs for his life, promising to sign anything to make the nightmare stop. Jiang Hao tells him to get the papers to the orphanage and warns him against trying any more tricks. In Yanjing, the Dragon Feng squadron is busy monitoring their own high-priority targets. A deputy commander rushes in with news that they've finally located Zhu Yunbai. The target is apparently on the move, heading straight for Anning City. Commander Shang Yuan finds it suspicious that the man is out in the open while being hunted. He shifts focus to the 3S rank assassins the Coles family sent to do the job. First is Master Cunning, a man famous for having a body that can stop bullets. Then there's a Chill, a vicious fighter known for a literal thirst for blood. The third one is a complete mystery, but his high bounty makes him the biggest threat. Shang Yuan slams the table, furious that these killers think they can just waltz into the country. His subordinate asks for their next move. The commander orders everyone to gear up immediately. They're heading to Changxi province. Knowing the stakes, he decides only the top brass will take on this dangerous mission. Meanwhile, the news travels to the Nightmare Organization's headquarters. An assistant hurries into the office to deliver a report that can't wait. The branch head, Gu Shang, is annoyed at being interrupted during his tea. The report is a bombshell. Master Yang and his best student have been killed. Gu Shang's grip tightens until his teacup shatters on the floor. He's outraged that someone had the balls to take out one of his regional heads. He orders an immediate investigation into who exactly was responsible. He vows to have the culprit's head on a platter within 30 days. Elsewhere in the city, The assassins are relaxing in a high-rise. Achille is getting bored, complaining that it's been 20 days with no sign of their target. Master Cunning tells him to chill, figuring the guy is just hiding out of fear. Achille laughs it off, saying the delay just gives him more time to enjoy life in China. Cunning jokes about his partner's high body count while they wait for the next lead. A third man, Katas, clears his throat to shut them up. He tells them not to underestimate the target, who is a notorious hidden expert. Cunning isn't convinced. He's never even seen the guy's name on the official rankings. But then his phone rings. Zhu Yunbai's trail has finally surfaced. A high-speed train roars through a mountain valley. Jiang Hao and Feng Yiao are on board, headed toward the next stage of the plan. On the train, Yiao probes into Jiang Hao's personal life, asking if the rumors about his engagement to the Feng family are true. She gets even more curious, wondering what his type is. Jiang Hao admits he doesn't really know, though his thoughts briefly drift to his childhood companion. Yiao flashes a playful smile, suggesting he might prefer someone with a bit more vitality, like her. He just tells her to get some sleep while they have the time. Far away at the Breeze Pavilion, the peaceful lakeside setting belies the coming storm. Zhu Yunbai sits alone at a table, nodding that his meal has already gone cold. He gazes out, waiting for a friend who has yet to appear. The sound of screeching tires signals the arrival of the very people he expected. 3 lethal figures step out of the car, surrounding the pavilion. Gu T. Coles, a member of the family seeking revenge, steps forward with a grim look. The assassins gloat, finally having their target in their sights after a 20-day hunt. Zhu Yunbai remains calm, questioning why skilled fighters like them would sell their lives for Cole's family money. Achille just laughs, mocking the master for choosing such a scenic place to die. Master Cunning demands he surrender and kneel to apologize for the death of Mark. Zhu Yunbai's face hardens. He'll never apologize for taking out a human monster. Gu T. Coles is finished talking. He promises a massive bonus to whoever can capture the target alive. Without another word, the 2 assassins lunge forward with blinding speed. Zhu Yunbai stands his ground, firmly believing that evil will never triumph over good. He sheds his outer robe, readying himself for the inevitable clash. The assassins coordinate their strikes, launching a simultaneous sword and claw attack. The impact is cataclysmic, sending a massive shockwave across the pavilion grounds. As the dust begins to settle, Zhu Yunbai drops into a firm stance, ready for the next round.